Wyvern Rider contacted headquarters while patrolling forests, carrying urgent information about strange movements approaching nearby agricultural territories during morning flights. Several wyverns crossed above defensive towers, alarming guards observing unusual formations traveling quickly beyond distant cultivated fields before sunset arrived. Farmers stopped harvesting wheat when roaring wyverns descended overhead, scattering birds across fields beside coastal villages unexpectedly during routine work. An elven woman watched damaged farmland carefully, fearing increasing wyvern activity threatened peaceful communities surviving near important transportation routes daily. Control tower officers received emergency transmissions immediately, preparing defenses while additional squadrons investigated dangerous disturbances spreading across regions. Officers received reports describing white flying objects moving rapidly without wings, preventing wyvern riders from identifying mysterious approaching targets accurately. Commanders gathered inside control headquarters, struggling understanding foreign transmissions, while unknown aircraft continued advancing directly toward Myhark City without stopping. Senior officials confirmed dangerous objects were living machines instead, ancient dragons, causing panic across military communication rooms immediately during discussions. Furious commanders ordered every wyvern squadron airborne immediately, demanding soldiers destroy unidentified targets before reaching crowded civilian districts near Myhark. Defensive garrisons surrounded Myhark walls carefully, preparing weapons while nervous soldiers awaited contact with mysterious approaching enemies tonight. Castle archers observed massive aircraft approaching defensive walls quickly, while commanders watched unfamiliar machines crossing skies above Myhark nervously tonight. Soldiers assembled across stone battlements immediately, receiving strict orders preparing interception against unidentified flying objects nearing populated districts rapidly. Guards stared upward fearfully while enormous aircraft crossed overhead, silently, shocking defenders expecting ordinary wyverns instead dangerous foreign machines today. Giant aircraft passed directly above Myhark Fortress, causing confusion among defenders struggling to understand powerful engines roaring across crowded streets below. Female archer released arrows uselessly toward distant aircraft, realizing traditional weapons could never threaten massive flying machines approaching steadily overhead. Wyvern riders finally spotted approaching aircraft directly ahead, immediately reporting enemy positions while maintaining pursuit formations above clouds. 6th Wyvern Squadron launched coordinated attacks aggressively, surrounding massive aircraft, crossing Myhark skies while defenders watched intense aerial battle. Wyvern soldiers prepared explosive ammunition nervously during pursuit, struggling to maintain formations against extremely fast aircraft avoiding direct confrontation. Squadron commanders noticed disappearing targets suddenly, realizing enemy aircraft maneuvered beyond visual range faster than ordinary wyverns could follow successfully. Furious wyvern riders prepared simultaneous attacks immediately, believing overwhelming numbers could destroy trespassing aircraft threatening Myhark territory from distant foreign nations. Wyvern riders launched explosive attacks confidently, believing massive aircraft could never survive direct impacts from powerful magical ammunition. Aircraft climbed sharply beyond pursuit range immediately, leaving exhausted wyvern riders unable to continue chasing targets through dangerous higher altitudes. Female commander noticed mysterious aircraft avoided combat completely, questioning whether unknown flying machines truly intended hostile actions against Myhark. Military leaders discussed strange aircraft carefully inside Myhark Naval Headquarters, debating possible origins behind unidentified flying units crossing regional territories. Commanders examined regional maps seriously, suspecting foreign nations beyond northern seas secretly controlled mysterious aircraft threatening neighboring countries across Palpadia. Naval headquarters received urgent reports describing unknown vessels appearing outside Myhark waters, forcing commanders to investigate possible foreign intrusions. Quatoin Naval Fleet approached carefully across rough waters, while officers prepared crews observing mysterious ships beyond familiar trading routes. Fleet commanders noticed enormous vessels remaining motionless nearby, realizing unknown ships intentionally waited while observing approaching naval patrols. Military officers ordered investigations immediately, placing every station under maximum alert, while armed soldiers prepared defensive operations throughout Myhark Harbor. Small patrol boats approached gigantic foreign warships cautiously, shocking nearby soldiers witnessing impossible steel vessels towering above traditional wooden Soldiers approached enormous steel warship carefully, staring upward helplessly, while massive foreign vessel towered above frightened investigation teams. Fleet commanders compared gigantic vessel against floating fortresses, struggling understand impossible construction, surpassing every known naval design. Foreign warship lowered massive deck automatically, confusing officers believing unknown mechanisms operated through powerful advanced magical equipment aboard. Investigation teams stepped onto enormous steel deck cautiously, observing strange structures and unfamiliar equipment covering gigantic foreign vessel completely. Senior commander examined gigantic landing deck carefully, remaining shocked while soldiers questioned impossible engineering supporting massive floating fortress beneath them. Knights tested enormous steel deck curiously, realizing spacious surfaces allowed cavalry movements impossible aboard ordinary wooden warships during inspections. Fleet commander sweated nervously while observing overwhelming foreign technology surrounding investigation teams across gigantic unfamiliar naval vessels nearby. Quatoin officers noticed unfamiliar uniforms and strange national flags beside helicopters, questioning identities behind mysterious foreign military forces. Japanese representatives greeted nervous Quatoin soldiers calmly, explaining peaceful intentions while requesting information regarding regional politics and nearby territories diplomatically. Foreign ministry official introduced Japan formally, confusing Quatoin commanders completely because nobody recognized unfamiliar nation names before throughout continental records. Japanese diplomat explained their nation suddenly arrived within unknown worlds, confirming patrol aircraft discovered surrounding territories recently through reconnaissance missions. Quatoin commander questioned unauthorized aircraft movements seriously, while Japanese diplomat admitted accidental airspace violations above ManhwaCapped territories previously. Japanese representative reassured nervous officials calmly, insisting Japan never intended hostile military actions against Quatoin territories or populations. Military headquarters received urgent transmissions immediately, forcing commanders pause diplomatic discussions while reviewing important intelligence from naval forces. Officials confirmed mysterious vessels belonged officially to Japan, while foreign diplomats requested formal political discussions with Quatoin leadership. Officials learned mysterious aircraft belonged officially to Japan, while diplomats requested apologies regarding unauthorized flights above ManhwaCapped territories. Quatoin leaders reacted shockingly after hearing Japan itself transferred worlds entirely, challenging every belief regarding continental history and geography. Senior officials remembered ancient legends describing transported nations before, causing governments reconsider impossible events surrounding Japan carefully. Commander rushed toward national capital immediately, planning to deliver Japan's explanations directly before important government conference members gathered there urgently. Government representatives assembled peacefully inside Lotus Garden Conference area, preparing discussions regarding Japan's sudden appearance within their world carefully. Elven guards blocked unauthorized visitors carefully outside Lotus Garden, protecting important government meetings discussing Japan's unexpected arrival. Fleet commander interrupted conference suddenly, filling meeting area with cigarette smoke, while officials reacted angrily toward unexpected disturbances inside government chambers. Government ministers recognized naval commander immediately, demanding explanations regarding dangerous interruptions, disrupting critical diplomatic discussions concerning foreign nations urgently. Elven foreign minister stopped growing arguments calmly, deciding urgent military information deserved immediate attention before continuing peaceful government negotiations. Commander reported Japan apologized formally, despite violating ManhwaCapped airspace, convincing leaders mysterious foreign nation preferred diplomatic relations over conflict. Commander explained neighboring countries carefully, warning Quatoin faced increasing pressure from expanding Loria Kingdom military forces recently near borders. Military leaders admitted Quatoin lacked strength confronting Japan directly, forcing government officials reconsider defensive priorities carefully. Elven foreign minister accepted Japan's apology formally, proposing diplomatic talks, establishing peaceful bilateral relations between both nations immediately. Foreign minister considered Japan's existence thoughtfully, walking palace corridors while reflecting upon impossible events changing international politics. Government officials reviewed Japanese military capabilities carefully, recognizing enormous warships and unusual aircraft represented overwhelming technological superiority over regional powers. Quatoin and Japanese representatives began official conference discussions peacefully, while diplomats apologized formally regarding previous unauthorized aircraft movements. Elven Foreign Minister accepted Japan's apology calmly, requesting detailed explanations regarding Japan's government, territory population, and national intentions. Japanese diplomats distributed informational documents carefully, hoping prevent misunderstandings, while Kwatoin officials reviewed prepared materials together. Silently during negotiations, Kwatoin officials discovered strange documents unreadable completely. Realizing Japanese language differed entirely, despite spoken conversations remaining understandable between both delegations. Japanese diplomat explained national geography orally, describing population, territorial size, and northeastern location relative toward Kwatoin carefully during conference discussions. Kwatoin officials doubted Japan's explanation completely, refusing believe unknown countries suddenly appeared within northeastern seas without evidence. Government ministers questioned Japan aggressively, comparing transferred world explanations against fictional fairy tales, lacking believable historical proof entirely for nations. Japanese diplomats requested transportation politely, hoping Kwatoin representatives could visit Japan personally and confirm extraordinary claims independently through direct observation. Elven Foreign Minister accepted Japan's request calmly, recognizing Japanese representatives behaved respectfully throughout difficult diplomatic discussions between governments. Foreign Minister trusted Japan further, noting powerful warships and aircraft avoided threatening Kwatoin despite overwhelming military superiority completely during negotiations. Elven Foreign Minister questioned Japan curiously, wondering what cities, traditions, and cultures existed beyond unknown transferred seas. Japanese diplomat smiled politely beside blooming flowers, promising Kwatoin representatives opportunities discovering Japan's people, history, and technology. Personally, Kwatoin officials prepared luggage excitedly beside coastal docks, realizing voyages toward Japan required merely 2 days across northern waters by ship alone. Kwatoin officials selected diplomatic representatives carefully, granting delegates complete authority handling negotiations with mysterious nation Japan. Elven advisors encouraged stronger economic relations immediately, believing future trade agreements with Japan could greatly strengthen Kwatoin nationally through cooperation. Delegation members gathered supplies beside Mayhark Harbor, preparing departure, while officials assigned responsibilities before important diplomatic journey overseas began. Japanese representatives welcomed delegates politely, explaining transportation arrangements, while escorting Kwatoin officials toward prepared cruise vessels nearby for departure. Elder delegate complained quietly about uncomfortable sea travel, worrying dangerous voyages could threaten passengers during extended diplomatic missions abroad soon. Delegates discussed unbelievable reports carefully, doubting enormous cruise ships could transport passengers across oceans within only 2 days successfully. Japanese diplomat introduced approaching cruise vessel calmly, while Kwatoin delegates compared massive ship against legendary iron dragons, nervously beside harbor. Delegates witnessed gigantic cruise ship entering harbor slowly, leaving officials completely shocked by enormous foreign vessel surpassing ordinary naval imagination. Kwatoin representatives explored luxurious upper decks carefully, observing swimming pools, open spaces, and unfamiliar facilities aboard cruise vessel curiously. Female delegate entered elegant cabin silently, admiring bright comfortable interiors unlike anything previously experienced within Kwatoin territories. Elven delegate admired luxurious cruise interiors silently, comparing glowing chandeliers and grand staircases against magical palaces from ancient legends previously. Japanese representatives explained diesel engines carefully, guiding confused delegates through massive mechanical rooms, powering enormous cruise vessels continuously beneath decks. Kwatoin delegates reacted shockingly while observing advanced machinery, realizing Japan possessed engineering capabilities surpassing every known kingdom across surrounding continents. Delegates studied private cabins quietly, questioning whether Japan possessed enough power rivaling dominant empires controlling worldwide politics currently beyond oceans. Female delegate recorded observations excitedly inside personal journal, anticipating future discoveries regarding Japan's mysterious civilization and overwhelming technological achievements. Elder delegate relaxed beside luxurious cruise facilities, reflecting upon impossible vessels, traveling oceans without sails, or rowing crews aboard. Delegates enjoyed peaceful nighttime voyage comfortably, Slowly accepting Japan's advanced technology while relaxing beside illuminated swimming pools, Japanese diplomat observed delegates silently beneath starry skies, while Kwatoin representatives reflected carefully about Japan's overwhelming technological superiority. Cruise ship finally reached Fukuoka harbor, successfully. Astonishing delegates observing massive cities, highways, and unfamiliar transportation systems surrounding Japan immediately. Kwatoin delegates entered Shin-Nikko Hotel cautiously, realizing Japan's modern civilization continuously exceeded every expectation formed during previous diplomatic experiences. Japanese diplomat distributed wristwatches politely, explaining useful timekeeping devices, helping Kwatoin delegates manage schedules accurately. Delegates examined unfamiliar watches carefully while Japanese guide explained daily itinerary, involving important aviation festival activities scheduled precisely. Luxury limousine arrived outside hotel entrance smoothly, preparing transport while Japanese representatives guided delegates toward planned sightseeing activities across Fukuoka City. Kwatoin delegates explored crowded streets cautiously, observing electric trains, traffic signals, and organized pedestrians throughout modern Japanese urban districts together. Female delegates suddenly noticed dangerous traffic nearby, reacting immediately, while Japanese guide watched confused beside approaching vehicles unexpectedly. Japanese representative reacted seriously beside injured civilian, while Kwatoin delegates realized dangerous traffic accidents occurred frequently within crowded modern cities. He attempted contacting emergency services immediately, but Kwatoin delegate prepared magical healing before medical teams arrived. Elven delegate approached injured woman calmly, pushing through gathering civilians while preparing advanced healing magic beside damaged roadside. Elder delegate reassured worried Japanese guide confidently, explaining skilled healing abilities could restore injured civilians without complicated medical treatment. Elven healer cast restorative magic carefully above unconscious victim, astonishing nearby civilians, witnessing supernatural healing powers within modern Japan. Japanese representative watched speechlessly, while Elven delegate continued chanting mysterious healing spells beside unconscious accident victim carefully during emergency treatment. Injured woman's wounds closed rapidly beneath glowing magic, astonishing nearby Japanese civilians witnessing impossible supernatural healing powers directly. Crowds gathered silently around roadside scene, observing miraculous recovery, while Japanese guides struggled understanding unfamiliar magical abilities demonstrated publicly. Elven healer comforted recovering victim calmly, explaining healing magic naturally, while confused Japanese guide questioned impossible supernatural medical treatment techniques. Elven delegate reacted shockingly upon discovering Japan lacked magic entirely, leaving Japanese guide embarrassed beside astonished surrounding civilians. Delegates recovered from roadside incident quickly, checking gifted watches before departing toward important Tawiki military aviation festival together. Kwatoin delegation arrived beside crowded Suiki airbase entrance, observing enormous civilian gatherings surrounding Japan's military aviation celebrations curiously. Japanese pilots prepared advanced F-15J fighter aircraft carefully, while announcers informed spectators regarding upcoming military flight demonstrations. Fighter aircraft launched loudly above festival grounds immediately, shocking Kwatoin delegates witnessing dedicated combat aircraft surpassing ordinary flying machines. Spectators watched roaring fighter jets perform aggressive aerial maneuvers overhead, astonishing delegates observing Japan's overwhelming military aviation technology. Delegates watched fighter aircraft destroy attacking wyverns effortlessly, realizing Japanese combat technology surpassed every traditional aerial weapon completely. Kwatoin officials requested advanced aircraft technology cautiously, hoping Japan could export powerful iron dragons, strengthening national defenses someday for protection. Japanese diplomat politely refused sensitive technology transfers immediately, explaining strict national laws prevented dangerous military exports abroad entirely to foreigners. Elven delegate questioned Japan carefully regarding desired trade products, wondering whether magical resources interested technologically advanced foreign representatives. Japanese representative requested agricultural imports respectfully instead magical knowledge, prioritizing stable food supplies for Japan's growing population nationwide during crises. Kwatoin delegates welcomed future Tokyo negotiations enthusiastically, believing diplomatic cooperation with Japan would finally clarify mutual economic interests peacefully for both nations involved. Japanese representative received urgent telephone calls during diplomatic meetings, temporarily leaving Kwatoin officials, discussing important agricultural cooperation matters. Kwatoin representatives praised Japan's agricultural products greatly, believing divine blessings protected Japanese farmland from harmful insects and devastating crop diseases. Government officials compared agricultural conditions carefully, explaining both nations possessed fertile lands, supporting stable harvests across peaceful territories. Kwatoin leaders proposed military alliances against Luria Kingdom threats, although Japanese representative explained technological differences complicated possible cooperation agreements seriously. Japanese representative presented constitutional restrictions carefully, informing Kwatoin officials military alliance agreements would become politically difficult under Japanese national laws. Kwatoin officials discussed transportation cooperation carefully, believing railway systems and automated vehicles remained negotiable despite impossible technological differences. Japanese Foreign Ministry analyzed reconnaissance reports thoroughly, confirming Kwatoin possessed fertile agricultural regions, similar Earth's environments, and productive farming territories. Government researchers discovered possible oil deposits within distant desert regions, raising concerns regarding unknown modernized nations already existing secretly. Tokyo officials prepared important diplomatic meetings carefully inside luxurious state guest facilities, organizing discussions concerning foreign relations and international cooperation efforts. Japanese representatives explained previous food import dependence clearly, emphasizing national economic challenges before sudden transportation into unfamiliar worlds recently occurred. Kwatoin representatives explained international negotiations involved many nations, assuring Japan broader economic opportunities beyond current diplomatic discussions. Japanese officials offered economic cooperation willingly, while Kwatoin representatives struggled understanding unfamiliar imported products and complicated international trade systems. Kwatoin delegates confidently promised enormous grain supplies immediately, believing national agricultural production could support Japan's massive food requirements successfully together. Japanese representatives reacted with surprise instantly, realizing Kwatoin possessed unexpectedly large agricultural capabilities despite limited technological development throughout surrounding regions. Kwatoin official explained established transportation systems carefully, emphasizing existing infrastructure regularly moved massive agricultural harvests across national territories efficiently. Japanese and Kwatoin representatives continued negotiations peacefully, recognizing unexpected opportunities benefiting both nations during important economic discussions together. Kwatoin delegates questioned Japan's optimistic proposals carefully, wondering whether promised cooperation truly offered meaningful national advantages for future development projects. Japanese officials proposed overseas development assistance directly, offering railroad expansions and harbor improvements, supporting agricultural transportation infrastructure across Kwatoin territories. Kwatoin representatives celebrated enthusiastically immediately, imagining modern railroads transporting agricultural products efficiently throughout national farming regions successfully. Japan and Kwatoin formally established diplomatic relations officially, strengthening political cooperation through peaceful agreements between both governments. Japan secured agricultural imports and oil drilling rights successfully, reducing transportation crisis pressures while expanding overseas resource development projects. Simultaneously, economic cooperation strengthened rapidly between nations, leading infrastructure development projects, including railroads, bridges, and expanded transportation systems across territories together. Cultural exchanges flourished peacefully afterward, introducing Japanese customs and technologies, while Kwatoin citizens welcomed foreign influences enthusiastically throughout communities nationwide. Kwatoin officials reflected quietly beside Lotus Garden, believing diplomatic responsibilities now depended greatly upon successful international cooperation efforts moving forward. Senior negotiators entrusted future diplomatic relations carefully, expecting continued cooperation strengthen Kwatoin's prosperity and political influence across surrounding regions permanently. Japanese embassy operated peacefully within Kwatoin territory, maintaining diplomatic relations while monitoring regional political developments carefully every day. Embassy staff informed Japanese ambassador immediately about urgent diplomatic requests arriving directly from important Kwatoin representatives, unexpectedly during official administrative duties. Kwatoin diplomats reported Luria Kingdom mobilizing military forces rapidly, warning Japanese representatives increasing border tensions could soon trigger devastating regional warfare. Japanese ambassador reacted with confusion immediately, questioning sudden military developments threatening previously stable diplomatic relations throughout neighboring territories. Kwatoin officials admitted Luria military pressure forced territorial concessions, endangering exports toward Japan despite successful cooperation agreements established. Kwatoin diplomat remembered peaceful Japanese scenery clearly, comparing calm landscapes against worsening political tensions threatening neighboring territories recently. Desperate Kwatoin representative begged Japanese ambassador directly, requesting immediate military assistance before Luria forces destroyed vulnerable border regions. Kwatoin diplomat imagined overwhelming Japanese military power seriously, believing powerful iron dragons could easily defeat Luria invasion forces advancing rapidly. Japanese ambassador explained constitutional restrictions painfully, admitting military support remained impossible, despite understanding Kwatoin's dangerous national situation. Ambassador apologized sorrowfully afterward, confirming Japan legally could not provide military assistance, while civilians continued suffering from expanding warfare nearby.
A mighty fortress stood in Luria's heart, watching over lands soon to be engulfed in war. Inside the grand bathhouse, King Luri basked in luxury, unaware his nation teetered on conflict's edge. Military advisors arrived solemnly, summoned to present the kingdom's long-prepared strategy for invading neighboring Kwaya. Toin territory, the king, calm and confident, allowed them to speak freely, granting audience amid pleasure and heat. Their lead commander explained the first step: seize Gim and control supplies before deeper war unfolds. One advisor described Japan's distant location, mocking it as primitive and lacking any threatening wyverns. Pleased by the report, the king declared his ambition to conquer and unify the Rhodanias continent. He envisioned human dominance, vowing to purge all human races who resisted his expanding imperial vision. Meanwhile, Luria's army encamped near Gim, feeding and preparing as the Eastern subjugation campaign quietly advanced. Commander Adam accepted promotion, grinning cruelly, eager to unleash wyverns and massacre helpless demi-human populations. Moizi listened to Luria's war cry, acknowledging soldiers' fear as panic spread through the defending ranks. Walls surrounded Gim, reinforcements arrived, earthworks and knights were prepared for the oncoming Lurian invasion. Despite preparations, unease crept in. Moizi sensed something overwhelming above, far more than they had anticipated. Marching troops breached borders. Moizi commanded the knights forward while Luria's wyverns launched from the sky. Enemy wyverns flooded the sky. Moizi rallied dragoons, vowing to fight for Gim's survival. Wyverns rained fire from above, turning the battlefield into a merciless and uncontested massacre. Explosions consumed defenses, screams echoed. Survivors watched helplessly, rejecting such devastation as a true form of war. Despair surged as flames spread. Moizi clenched his teeth, grieving their fate without even earning a dignified death. Lurian forces pushed forward. Defenders scrambled to retaliate. Arrows flew, but few could reach the flying monsters. In burning chaos, Moizi stood tall, sword raised high, rallying shattered troops to protect Gim's citizens. Blazing walls and cries of loyalty echoed as defenders made their final stand for Kwai-Toin. Looting began without restraint. Soldiers took supplies freely while officers turned away, calling it deserved compensation. Acts of cruelty escalated. Justifications masked atrocities, and the commander endorsed rape to maintain soldier morale. Captured humans faced hatred. Orders were given to send them back, but execution lingered unspoken. Torture replaced mercy. Prisoners suffered public humiliation. Violence turned into spectacle designed solely to spread fear. Moizi was captured after fierce resistance, shackled by 10 soldiers brought before a gloating officer. 2 girls behind bars called out. Familiar voices shattered the silence as recognition filled the air. Shock overwhelmed him. Seeing wife and daughter in chains ignited grief deeper than battlefield defeat ever could. Cruel terms followed. The officer demanded silence during execution, promising the daughter's life in exchange for obedience. His wife's body collapsed. A scream tore from Moizi's throat while the captor smiled with twisted satisfaction. After Gim fell, smoldering ruins and lifeless bodies told of brutality few could have imagined. Slaughtered civilians and violated prisoners lay discarded while surviving captives, stripped of dignity, awaited uncertain torment ahead. Tanaka raced through foreign streets, desperate to deliver Japan's resolution before diplomacy failed completely. Elegant elf onlookers whispered as he passed while Japan's flag reminded him what was at stake. Outside the government building, Tanaka handed Yagu the document containing Tokyo's final decision on intervention. Inside the Lotus Garden, leaders discussed Lori Fei's massive navy, threatening to engulf the Western territories in war. Just as fear spread, Yagu burst in holding Japan's reply news that could change everything. Yagu began reading Japan's statement, which condemned the violent actions committed by the Lori faction. Japan requested that Kuo-toin act against insurgents, offering joint action if officially invited to intervene directly. Tanaka stood firm by the lakeside, resolved as Japan prepared to dispatch its self-defense forces. Confused by the implications, the Prime Minister turned to Yago, demanding clarification on Japan's intentions. He explained that labeling enemies as insurgents allowed Japan lawful military support without declaring formal war. Hope stirred as the council realized Japan's warship and helicopter could return upon official request. He ordered immediate assistance, rephrasing Lori Fei as insurgents to comply with Japan's legal military framework. At the naval base, helicopters arrived as astonished locals observed their shape and roaring engine sounds. Doubt lingered between nobles, but confidence prevailed as Japan's representative confirmed their resolve without hesitation. Despite Japan's limited fleet, their reputation inspired hope, though facing 4,000 enemy ships seemed overwhelmingly grim. With quiet resolve, he saluted and stepped forward, entrusting his life to Japan's military vessel. Strong winds battered him on arrival, yet he confirmed his identity and accepted their protection formally. Despite the stormy gale, soldiers helped him board as rotors thundered above the dirt-filled air. Flying over the ocean, he stared wide-eyed at Izumo, a massive ship unlike anything imagined. Aboard the vessel, he was welcomed by a captain, marking the start of military cooperation. Respectfully, both sides exchanged condolences and thanks, acknowledging sacrifices in Japan's critical reinforcement effort. A briefing began detailing Loria's dual-front threat and Japan's 8 destroyers prioritizing Mihawk's protection. Concerns about Loria's overwhelming numbers surfaced, yet the officer reassured with calm, unwavering confidence. Detailed intelligence and strategic clarity allowed him to promise safety without hesitation or visible fear. Surprised by such conviction, the observers silently questioned the source of this man's absolute assurance, confident in their strength. Loria's vast fleet gathered, unaware of the approaching modern force overhead. Helicopters appeared above their formation, delivering a clear warning and asserting control over Quadade's waters. Destroyers moved forward, broadcasting threats of retaliation if course changes were not made immediately. Ships trembled as an enormous Japanese warship sliced through the sea, stunning the overconfident commander still defiant. He dismissed the lone vessel's threat, boasting superiority with a fleet 4,000 strong. A command was issued to flank the enemy ship and prepare for engagement at range. Wooden vessels released arrows, flaming bolts streaking toward the unshaken modern warship in tight formation. Flames scattered harmlessly across reinforced armor. Arrows bounced off metal, stunning the admiral into disbelief. Sailing calmly away, the warship created distance, prompting cries of retreat and shouts of false victory. Despite celebrations, unease spread. Something felt wrong as the enemy's turret ominously began to rotate. Aboard Mayuku, officers confirmed hostile fire and ordered an immediate calculated counterattack against enemy ships. Turrets activated and fired, shells struck targets precisely, igniting flames across the wooden fleet's formation. Sails crumbled under fire and towering smoke rose as entire vessels were consumed in seconds. Destroyer Mayuku maintained formation while crew members hoped the devastating display would force an immediate retreat. Despite hopes, uncertainty lingered as the officer quietly braced for what might still come next. Flames engulfed the wooden warship, its hull shattered by a force no book had described. Staring in disbelief, the commander watched a metal barrel unleash destruction beyond anything his empire understood. Japan's warship advanced steadily, confirming the enemy's ship had sunk with a precise and calculated strike. Despite the overwhelming power displayed, the enemy fleet showed no retreat, continuing forward without hesitation or fear. From their mast, scouts observed the steel vessel halted, its upper deck eerily devoid of movement. The commander analyzed calmly, realizing the enemy ship's devastating weapon required long intervals between each attack. Orders spread across the fleet to lower sails and hold position while preparing a magical counterstrike. At Jinhag Castle in Loria Kingdom, wyverns were swiftly armed and armored for immediate deployment. With a shout, the 17th Dragoon Squadron prepared for takeoff, ready to engage the unknown metallic threat. Strategists hesitated, using all wyverns left the capital defenseless. Yet the enemy's weapon couldn't be ignored. Dragoon Squadron launched into the sky, wings slicing through wind as orders echoed across stone ramparts. Confident in their decision, commanders believed overwhelming numbers would crush the mysterious foreign vessel without resistance. Wings beat in unison across desert skies as units cleared formation, awaiting final signal to engage. In tight formation, Wyverns surged forward, fully armed and prepared for coordinated assault against the steel warship. Radar pinged rapidly. Enemy counted 250 units. Fireball strength matched napalm. Physical capabilities remained unknown and dangerous. Command issued without hesitation: every incoming creature must be stopped before reaching the ship's defensive perimeter. Combat systems activated instantly. Vertical missile launchers opened. Operators authorized full ship-to-air missile deployment procedures. Multiple projectiles roared skyward, trailing smoke as guided weapons ascended in synchronized arcs toward airborne threats. Observers misjudged the ignition, mistaking the launch for an internal fire or critical explosion on board. Unfamiliar with modern warfare, enemy officers struggled to comprehend the missile's purpose or intended destination. Missiles surged ahead with precision, rapidly closing distance as Wyverns flew unaware through thick cloud cover riders. Spotted the incoming trails too late. Brilliant flashes erupted, engulfing nearby squadrons in lethal blasts. Desperate maneuvers failed. Smoke, tailed projectiles locked targets relentlessly, closing the gap faster than wings could dodge. Explosions shredded formations mid-air. Scorched bodies spiraled down, casualties mounting with every detonation across the sky. Despite overwhelming losses, radar still tracked 50 hostiles advancing steadily toward the destroyer's defensive perimeter. Orders changed quickly. Gunners switched to anti-air shells, unleashing shrapnel bursts directly into closing targets. Cannons fired repeatedly. Empty casings clattered across steel as each shot dropped another flying beast. Shock spread among enemy ranks. Sustained fire overwhelmed evasive maneuvers, leaving Wyverns tumbling from the sky. Smoke trailed behind falling bodies. Doubt turned to fear as aerial superiority crumbled above their wooden fleet. Only 3 remained. Defensive turrets activated instantly. Sius locked on to intercept the final threat. Siu's guns spun violently, filling the air with fire. Targets burned mid-flight, plummeting toward the waves. Smoke and brass filled the deck. One last Wyvern struck water, trailing flames and broken wings. Confirmation echoed across the bridge, every aerial unit eliminated by a single vessel's overwhelming firepower. Fear crept into commanders' expressions. Their entire aerial force fell, leaving wooden ships dangerously exposed at sea rather than retreat. Galley oars began to turn. Leaders chose pride and retaliation over cautious surrender. Alarms rang out. Soldiers shouted urgently as unfamiliar silhouettes appeared beyond the horizon, slicing through waves. Steel giants emerged in formation, reinforcing their ally. Size, speed, and design overwhelmed anything previously witnessed. Gunfire erupted again. Explosive shells tore through wooden decks, splintering hulls and igniting sails across the line. Realization set in: no tactic could save them now. Defeat loomed, and history would condemn failure. Yet pride couldn't outweigh duty. Surviving soldiers floated among wreckage as the admiral wrestled with his decision. Facing overwhelming odds, the admiral finally ordered his communications officer to initiate full naval retreat. Operators confirmed the enemy's sudden course change as commanders gave the order to cease all fire. With threats gone, naval crews swiftly transitioned focus from combat operations to immediate maritime rescue protocol. Massive ships deployed helicopters and boats, scanning survivors as curious allies questioned the quick battle resolution. Despite earlier conflict, rescue teams were sent out not for allies, but to save insurgents. Japan repelled thousands of enemy ships and Wyverns with minimal effort and 0 real damage. The Council, seeing no risk, permitted Japan to build a camp near Fortress City Ije. Ije stood strong with vast defenses, elite troops, and supplies ready for a prolonged siege. Confident in their fortress, General Nu dismissed Japan's arrival and refused immediate contact with their troops. He swore not to be humiliated again, vowing dominance as the Japanese team entered. Uchida introduced himself formally as commander of Japan's 7th Division. Standing firm before skepticism, the general sneered at Japan's attire, mocking the camouflage as unfit for warriors of honor. Claiming Ije's invulnerability, the general insisted Japan stay idle, confident his troops could handle everything alone. Tension escalated as mocking words turned serious, risking diplomacy with a stare that sparked silent defiance. Japan agreed to support from behind but requested permission to place observers inside fortress. Ije Uchida ended the discussion politely, while the general scoffed, questioning Japan's pride in retreating. Away from tension, Japanese troops assessed the situation, relieved they weren't forced into direct engagement. Injin, Hague, Lorians doubted Japan's overwhelming victory, dismissing the report as exaggerated and absurd. Strategists debated next moves. One pushed for capturing Ijai. Others urged caution with the Navy confident in his plan. The commander accepted the king's expectations with a bowed, grateful response. Elven refugees marched steadily toward Ijai, fleeing conflict while carrying hopes of survival and protection. Among them, a young girl pleaded for rest, but her brother urged endurance towards safety. Encouragement returned as Ijai appeared in sight, giving exhausted travelers renewed energy to press forward. Relief filled their hearts as they moved together, unaware of hooves stirring danger nearby. Sudden panic erupted when Lorian cavalry appeared, forcing everyone to scatter in fear of slaughter. Lorian scouts spotted the elven refugees and quickly identified them as vulnerable, isolated stragglers. Cruel intentions surfaced as soldiers viewed frightened elves with lewd eyes, mocking their helpless appearance. Encouraged by their captain, troops prepared to descend upon the refugees for violent amusement. Horsemen charged down the hill at full speed, spears raised targeting the defenseless line. Terror struck the children as cavalry closed in, panic spreading with each thunderous gallop. Elven guards shouted commands as chaos spread, urging refugees to abandon belongings and flee through fields. Two siblings ran breathlessly, chased by cavalry closing in with deadly spears and heavy hooves. Hasha collapsed in exhaustion, crying in fear. Her brother swore to protect her no matter. With trembling hands, he picked up a stick, facing cavalry while she prayed for salvation. Warm memories of their mother resurfaced, comforting Asha as she recalled tales of divine protection. Excitement grew as the siblings begged for the Demon Lord story once told by Mother. She spoke of ancient wars, divine emissaries, and a sealed evil threatening the world's peace. Tears streamed as Asha prayed deeply. Thunder exploded, shocking Lorien knights into momentary confusions. Smoke rose from fallen cavalry. Panic spread. Officers barked orders, suspecting powerful magic among elves. Rocks crashed from above, scattering attackers. Magic overwhelmed them before orders could be fully spoken. Rotor blades thundered as helicopters arrived, casting shadows over stunned knights frozen before overwhelming foreign firepower. A strange metal beast soared above the battlefield, raining destruction none could comprehend or withstand. Its weapons unleashed blinding firepower, vaporizing armored knights before they understood what had even struck them. Shock rippled through distant onlookers as the mounted soldiers were torn apart in terrifying explosive waves. They watched the smoking ruins silently, unsure whether salvation or annihilation had arrived alongside these skyborne machines. When soldiers in unfamiliar armor appeared, the elves recognized the rising sun emblem with awe. Japanese soldiers stepped forward, scanning the crowd calmly while asking if anyone nearby had sustained injuries. The villagers hesitated, watching nervously, unsure if these armored strangers truly meant no harm to them. A child approached, eyes wide, asking if the soldiers were emissaries sent by the sun god. One soldier realized the misunderstanding, noting their flag resembled the sun and likely caused the confusion. Choosing not to correct him, the soldier smiled and confirmed they came to protect everyone. Orders were clear. They had arrived here to protect lives and assist displaced villagers immediately. Whispers spread among the locals as they recalled ancient myths resembling what they had witnessed today. Many began to believe prophecies were true: sunships, skyfire, and the divine emissaries' arrival. One soldier grew concerned by the misunderstanding, but their mission to ensure civilian safety remained unchanged. Without delay, evacuation began. Troops calmly instructed villagers to board the helicopter, now waiting for transport. Villagers backed away, believing the aircraft divine and feeling unworthy to step aboard such sacred power. Elsewhere, in Gim, Laura Kingdom's military leaders gathered inside the Eastern Lord's Division headquarters for discussion. Commanders struggled to explain the missing squadron, puzzled by the complete absence of magical response indicators. Magician Washner hesitated, suspecting impossible forces, though his instincts warned something unnatural might be unfolding nearby. Prompted to speak, Washner revealed a growing rumor among magicians of a godlike force awakening. Reports described devastating blasts so powerful that even thousands of magicians couldn't match their destructive force. Despite massive damage, no magic signatures were recorded, causing confusion among experienced scholars and tacticians alike. A hushed confession followed news of a naval catastrophe that crippled fleets and slaughtered hundreds of wyverns. While disbelief spread, doubts grew deeper about the Empire's military strength and its future strategic control. New deployments and orders revealed Homeland's contradictions, hinting that recent demands hid fear of looming defeat. Despite uncertainty, one officer admitted that orders from above must still be carried out as commanded. Fear of Commander Adam kept everyone silent, his cruelty well known across the ranks and families. With time running out, They abandoned deeper investigation and prepared for action based on uncertain reports. 20,000 troops mobilized swiftly, departing Gim en route to the fortress city of Iji by foot. Their Eastern Army established a new frontline base, positioning themselves between Iji and the Japanese outpost. An urgent report reached General No. 20,000 enemy troops were setting camp near Fortress Iji. Strategists suspected reinforcements would follow, so No ordered all forces to remain inside city defenses temporarily. As night fell, stationed soldiers in Iji observed enemy movements while keeping defenses quietly reinforced behind walls. Frustration grew among guards as Lorians hurled taunts and threats, trying to provoke a careless retaliation. Rather than respond, defenders endured the tension while General No watched silently, preparing for strategic developments ahead. Concern grew as soldier morale dropped steadily. Prolonged inaction made each day harder to endure. Now rejected confrontation. Provoking battle without clear advantage would only serve whatever trap the enemy prepared. Several days passed before a message arrived, delivered urgently from Japan's military forces stationed nearby. It requested confirmation Japan intended a support strike and needed assurance no allies were within range. Relief washed over now, realizing decisive action was near, yet brought by unexpected foreign allies instead. Now grumbled about Japan's initiative, having never ordered them to leave their original encampment positions. So curious, he approved the operation, eager to witness what kind of battle Japan would unleash. Military forces deployed cluster-equipped rockets, resurrecting banned weapons to counter threats in this unfamiliar world. Black helicopters soared above the medieval crowd, scattering unknown objects that glittered while descending from the sky. Tension erupted across the castle grounds as soldiers misinterpreted the paper drop as an aerial assault. Curious citizens gathered fallen sheets, puzzled by clean print, fine texture, and unfamiliar writing on them. Leaders soon confirmed the message. Those airborne dragons dropped letters in universally understood continental common language. A council gathered as the foreign letter demanded retreat within 2 hours or face destruction. Its sender, clearly identified, was the formidable Japan Ground Self-Defense Force, issuing a clear ultimatum without negotiation. Discussion turned tense. Troops believed the message insulted their strength, fueling eagerness rather than fear. Leaders acknowledged their force of 20,000, still uncertain of Japan's numbers or tactical capabilities. With determination set, the commander ordered his army forward to confront Japan on open ground. Banners waved as armored troops marched forward, confident they could withstand whatever power Japan possessed. Confidence surged through the ranks, believing their elite infantry could match any force on this continent. Overlooking the field, commanders stood resolute, determined to fight with discipline and carve a path forward. Time expired. Japanese commanders received reports confirming no retreat, only enemy troops arrayed and ready for battle. With no allies nearby, artillery and MLRS units awaited final orders to begin precise bombardment. Orders transmitted instantly. No hesitation followed as the countdown ended with a single command: begin the attack. Rocket artillery positioned in sequence. Crews confirmed insurgent target coordinates west of Iji and awaited firing authorization. Launchers ignited simultaneously. Missiles screamed into the sky, trailing white smoke as destructive payloads soared toward enemy formations. Eyes widened with dread. Lightning flickered across the commander's mind, foretelling unavoidable destruction and irreversible consequences. Cluster munitions separated midair. Hundreds of submunitions scattered, preparing to unleash devastation across a vast, concentrated target zone. Explosives descended like range shields, lifted instinctively, but confusion spread faster than any call to arms. Smoke thickened, bodies scattered. More rockets screamed overhead while front lines collapsed beneath unstoppable modern explosive force. Panicked footsteps echoed. Commanders stood frozen as waves of shock engulfed formations from every direction without warning. Realization struck hard. Familiar faces fell. Soldiers groaned. Leaders could only whisper in disbelief at mounting losses. Veterans disappeared into flame. Trusted warriors vanished mid-step, consumed before fleeing the expanding circle of annihilation. Magic users panicked. Explosions erupted everywhere, yet no mana was sensed across the battlefield at all. Power surged violently. Blast waves tore through formations, dwarfing what even high-ranking mages could ever dream conjuring. Confusion deepened. This destruction felt divine, like witnessing the wrath of an ancient dragon unleashed from above. Speculation arose. Some feared Japan had allied with a mythical force beyond comprehension. The divine dragon itself, watching through his scope, now confirmed it. Multiple detonations erupted in enemy lines, shaking even seasoned commanders' confidence. now stood stunned. The elf officer questioned if this overwhelming destruction came from Japan's forces. He denied it, insisting Japan's army never even moved. Yet the sky kept raining fire on the battlefield. Not a single Luri Feinen soldier remained. No losses were recorded in defense. Doubt crept in. New began to wonder, was this truly Japan's doing or something else? Imagining the commander behind it, New trembled silently. This was not an army, it was a god. After the Ijai battle, Kwotoin's Senate gathered urgently, shaken by Japan's overwhelming military power. Despite reliable witnesses, explaining Japan's strength, disbelief, and panic gripped the Senate chambers, spreading intense political confusion. Speculation erupted. Their weapons caused infernal devastation. Some suspected magic, others feared ancient legends returning through Japan. A senator silenced the room, announcing Japan's official proposal, a bold plan to recapture Gim. Japan had already completed preparations. Their forces awaited approval. Now the decision rested with Kwotoin's leaders. The Senate's decision was unanimous. All representatives agreed to proceed with Japan's Gim recapture plan inside Gim headquarters. Lorians grew tense. Communication with the Eastern Lords Division had suddenly and completely stopped. Despite repeated attempts using manacom devices, no response came. The commander's frustration steadily grew with silence. Wyvern squadrons had been deployed. Soldiers reported they were nearing Ijai, ready for reconnaissance or possible engagement. Riders urged caution mid-flight. Flying too high could expose them to detection from unknown enemy positions. Vanguard encampment appeared deserted. Tents remained intact, but no soldiers or movement could be seen anywhere. Ash filled the air, burnt soil stretched across the land. Wyvern riders spotted bodies scattered below. Battlefield was unrecognizable. Torn banners and destroyed weapons confirmed complete annihilation of the stationed Lorian forces. Suddenly, an unfamiliar flying object emerged. Rapid rotor sounds followed as weapons locked onto the airborne scouts. Back at command, an officer rushed in, alerting Commander Adam of an urgent developing crisis. Contact with the Wyvern unit was lost. Their last transmission mentioned being chased by a fireball. Tension escalated as Adam reported the incident. His words were met with disbelief and growing frustration. General Pandor arrived to assess the situation. The command room began discussing defenses and available Wyverns. A warning followed. Japan and Kwotoin likely destroy the Eastern Lords, suggesting more attacks could follow. After a whispered report, Adam requested to return to Hag Castle and call for reinforcements. Adam offered to request reinforcements himself, hoping personal authority might secure additional manpower if needed. While riding through the forest, he accepted failure. Kwotoin's defense and Japan's weapons had overwhelmed them. Troops believed aerial patrols offered safety. Confidence grew as Wyverns circled above their seemingly secure stronghold. Pandor planned to return to headquarters. Responsibility for the rear guard was handed fully to Adam. Without warning, explosions erupted midair. Japan's assault devastated the Wyverns, sending debris raining down near the city. Explosions struck without warning. A Wyvern crashed into buildings as missiles continued tracking fleeing targets. Soldiers panicked. Wyverns shattered midair. No one understood how such precise destruction happened so quickly. Roaring engines filled the skies. Everyone looked up as jet aircraft soared above the burning capital. Powerful fighters streaked through rooftops, shaking the city. Shockwaves left debris flying across streets and alleys. Observers froze in place. Unknown machines maneuvered overhead, faster than anything ever seen in recorded history. Citizens stared upward in fear. Jets circled back, leaving thunderous noise and trails of vapor behind. Missiles launched again. Wyverns exploded above fields. Soldiers screamed, urging General Pandor to take cover immediately. Aircraft flew overhead. Their design and destructive power felt divine, unlike anything known in modern warfare. Pandor trembled. He compared this overwhelming power to a myth, the feared ancient magi. Empires return, long-forgotten legends resurfaced. Ravenel Empire, once taboo, was remembered as explosions rocked the land again. A tyrannical civilization rose, dominating races with chains extending power even into divine territory. Divine wrath ignited. The gods cast down a star to shatter the proud empire's defiance. From the ashes, only a monument remained, promising forced submission upon their inevitable return. As tanks rolled through foreign streets, stunned elves watched an unfamiliar power reshape their world. Without emotion, the soldier revealed intentions. Pacification of Luria's capital had already begun. An elf diplomat sat stunned as Japan revealed plans to seize Luria's capital through force. Japan considered arresting the king, justifying intervention under Toin Dukedom's official request for military assistance. Inside Jinhag, Luria's leaders learned their eastern army had collapsed, their base in Gim completely overrun. Confused by defeat, officials questioned whether Japan's weapons were magical, struggling to comprehend their overwhelming firepower. The court magician recalled ancient legends suggesting Japan used forgotten guided, light bullets thought lost to history. The royal magician panicked, proposing a terrifying theory: Japan might be the legendary Revernal Empire reborn. If true, their unmatched technology and overwhelming victories would finally make sense to the shocked Lorien Council. Yet others doubted it, citing diplomacy and ancient prophecies involving darkness as signs still unconfirmed. They hesitated, recalling a recent flash that turned night into day, fearing worse might follow. Regardless of origin, Japan's advance forced a full alert, while plans against Toin were reconsidered. Steam rose quietly as he reflected on recent failures, tension tightening across his bare shoulders silently. Without a word, strained glances passed between generals who couldn't find answers to growing military pressure. While Luria's leadership struggled, Japan's troops calmly maintained routine. Unaware of the fear they inspired abroad, discussion resumed over breakfast. An officer confirmed Japan's mission to arrest King Hog for war crimes. Operational planning continued amid casual chatter, ensuring no details were missed before launching the precision strike. Pleased with the meal, the commander praised Toin's wheat and his beloved cod roe spaghetti. Warships crowded the northern port of Luria, forming a last barrier before Japan's military could strike. Jets screamed overhead as missiles descended, marking the start of Japan's precise assault on Luria's fleet. Explosions ripped through wooden vessels, fire and debris spreading fast as anchored ships were obliterated instantly. Smoke billowed as alarms rang out and soldiers scrambled, realizing Japan had targeted the naval stronghold. Citizens looked up in fear as jets roared past, realizing Japan had begun its direct assault. Naval officers scrambled for communication, powerless against advanced aircraft tearing through wooden ships and outdated defenses. Flames devoured the harbor while desperate commanders called for reinforcements from their airborne Wyvern. Mounted Night Division, orders reached the stables fast, prompting the 2nd Squadron to mobilize and defend the capital immediately. Riders launched into the sky on Wyverns, determined to intercept the unknown threat facing their homeland. Armor secured the young knight called to his Wyvern, ready to enter battle for the first time. Far off at Rhodanias' northern coast, a modern destroyer cruised steadily, relaying updates to command headquarters. Monitoring teams confirmed enemy Wyverns took the bait, allowing Japan's forces to proceed with the operation. At the Luria, Toin border, mechanized divisions received the order to begin advancing toward the enemy's inland positions. Tanks rolled forward with purpose, targeting Jinhag, the base of invading insurgents threatening regional stability and peace. F-15Js lifted from Toin's airbase, engines roaring as the mission officially entered live operation. Wyvern riders gathered on command, forming the 2nd Squadron and launching into flight with confident urgency. Excitement rose while flying above the capital as a young rider admired the majestic cityscape below. Squadron leaders barked orders, reminding newcomers their behavior in battle would reflect on their squad's honor. With determined eyes, a rookie swore to protect their homeland, regardless of who dared attack. Fighter jets closed formation and launched guided missiles, initiating a precision strike on airborne enemy targets. Wyvern riders detected incoming projectiles too late, their flame breath unable to counter advanced modern weaponry. Explosions erupted mid-air, scattering formation and sending dragon wings spiraling in chaotic, uncontrolled panic and retreat. Losing control, a desperate rider shouted commands, struggling to stabilize his mount in the plunging dive. Unable to recover, the Wyvern crashed violently, throwing its rider through the sky toward the ground. Explosions rained unexpectedly from above, shaking walls and hearts alike as panic spread across the fortress grounds. That morning, he wandered deep into the forest, chasing berries with innocent curiosity and no caution. Trees surrounded him as confusion grew, something stirred behind the leaves, shaking the earth with quiet menace. 3-headed beast emerged from the thicket, jaws wide and fury awakened, forcing the boy to freeze. Just before the beast struck, a Wyvern soared down, blasting fire with one commanding, devastating roar. Witnessing the Wyvern's might, a soldier approached him calmly, surprised by the boy's lingering fear. He knelt beside the fallen Wyvern, stunned by how even legends could bleed and fall. Meteors rained silently from above, baffling mages who sensed no spells, no magic behind the devastation. Scouts from the watchtower spotted foreign aircraft approaching swiftly, trailing behind unfamiliar roaring sounds in formation. As alarms rang, magic users raised staves, convinced their ancient sorcery could withstand any known threat. Jets thundered past the ramparts before spells finished casting. Shockwaves drowned chants in panic and confusion. Orders rang out as jets closed in. Mages completed their chant and launched flaming counterattacks. Despite their efforts, fireballs missed entirely. Aircraft maneuvered with speed no spellcaster could ever anticipate. Simultaneously at the harbor, explosive strikes scorched sea and sky. Wyvern reinforcements failed to defend anything. From the castle wall, one commander watched in silence as burning wyverns plummeted beside flying machines. Officers spotted unfamiliar warships approaching. Panic rose quickly as Admiral Whale seized the scope to confirm. Recognition struck instantly. Japan was behind the assault, confirming suspicions with terrifying precision and unmatchable technology. Through his scope, approaching vessels mirrored last time. Alarms blared again as guns began firing. Wooden fleets burst into flames instantly. Cannon shells from steel warships shredded sails and splintered hulls. Instincts screamed to act, but decisions lagged behind. His thoughts scattered amid rising smoke and chaos. Wreckage blanketed the harbor. Masts burned, bodies vanished, and silence fell where a fleet once stood. Ropes tightened around the wyvern's harness as he pleaded for movement beneath the quiet sky. Despite the urging, no response came. Closed eyes and shallow breath deepened the sinking dread. Silence lingered between them both. Exhaustion settled in, while uncertainty clouded his worried thoughts. Marching footsteps approached. Soldiers confirmed his identity. Noting neither rider nor wyvern bore visible wounds, one officer offered calm assurance, implying future concerns could wait until after surviving the present. He delivered grim news: every wyvern unit had fallen in battle, leaving only one survivor breathing. Shock overtook him instantly. Disbelief clashed with despair, struggling to grasp how everything ended so swiftly. Far from the battlefield, royal officials gathered in Jinhak, demanding answers for the military catastrophe. Tensions climbed as commanders urged reports. Silence thickened, while fear settled across the anxious war council. Explanations followed hesitantly. Magic failed to reach enemies, and naval headquarters were destroyed without trace or resistance. Officials warned that morale would falter despite readiness. Losing aerial support severely impacted overall battlefield confidence. Envoys from Parpaldia arrived quietly. The council requested aid, hoping for reluctant cooperation despite strained ties. Tension grew inside the chamber. Parpaldian representatives criticized disorganization and questioned Loria's value as an ally. Rather than assist, they withdrew support, stating Loria's fate held no importance to their empire's goals. Before silence could settle, one officer stood abruptly, demanding permission to voice a pressing question. Questions arose in court regarding Japan's infantry. No sightings confirmed their presence on any front. Confidence remained among nobles, trusting elite knights and terrain to repel any conventional ground-based invasion. Military leaders believed defending the capital was possible if enemy lacked strength in direct confrontation. Across distant plains, modern tanks advanced in formation. No flags, no warnings, just calculated mechanical dominance approaching. Columns echoed footsteps as royal guards assembled. Their faith in the palace's strength remained unshaken. Tension brewed beneath their armor. Should the worst come, the king's safety would rest with them. Kneeling before the throne, the commander warned without the king, Loria's hope would vanish completely. News arrived like thunder. Japan's attack obliterated fleets and wyvern units, leaving their defenses broken. To reclaim initiative, Loria planned an ambush near Beals, banking on terrain and close combat. Allied nobles remained passive. Refusing to rally, the king ordered imprisonment of their heirs in retaliation. After leaving the chamber, the commander recalled terrifying visions of wyverns exploding amid thunderous roars above. Jet fighters tore through the sky. Magical beasts disintegrated. The palace trembled beneath overwhelming foreign power. Gripped by dread, the king clutched his head, realizing his throne offered no protection anymore. Japan's troops gathered for deployment. Their objective: mislead the enemy while defending crucial regions for national survival. Fog settled over Jinhak's wilderness as armored units slowly advanced toward the distant fortified structure. Visibility remained limited, increasing tension. Troops waited anxiously, hoping enemy scouts would detect their deliberate advance. Commanders discussed striking the tower to provoke defenders, weighing the risks of harming nearby infrastructure. To avoid civilian casualties, they authorized indirect fire using howitzers while tanks closed in carefully. Inside the fortress, drowsy guards noticed movement through the haze, unsure if danger approached or not. One of the watchmen shouted urgently after spotting unfamiliar machines mistaken for primitive siege weapons. Alarms followed the discovery. Messages were transmitted quickly, reporting enemy approach from the north at distance. Japan's self-propelled howitzers rolled into position and launched a calculated strike to demolish the enemy's tower. Impact rocked the fortress walls. Bricks scattered as a lookout watched the destruction unfold in disbelief. An officer burst onto the balcony, confused and panicked, demanding answers as explosions echoed across Jin Hawk. Panic gripped Patijane as he realized enemy forces bypassed Beals and advanced through the wilderness. Messengers rushed inside the fortress, warning of halted siege weapons and incoming magical bombardment from afar. Orders were issued urgently. Troops were told to retreat, maneuver fast, and unleash the cavalry forces. Heavy cavalry units assembled quickly, entrusted with the vanguard role and driven by speed and pride. Before contact, bullets tore through the knights' arrows couldn't compare, armor shattered. Riders dropped instantly. Armor cracked under unknown force. Struck knights staggered, unable to understand the weapon piercing their defenses, witnessing the devastation. Soldiers were stunned that such a small force could unleash overwhelming firepower. Machine guns roared relentlessly. Horses fell, blood spilled. Charging cavalry collapsed before reaching enemy lines. Survivors stumbled into command, reporting strange light bullets used by an enemy with terrifying combat effectiveness. While some debated magic depletion, others proposed human wave attacks. Treatment was ordered for wounded returning alive. Shield walls were considered, but even metal armor couldn't guarantee survival against piercing modern weapons. A flanking strategy was devised. Infantry would distract head, and while others struck from a hidden route, trumpets blared as troops marched from the gate, vowing to defend their homes at any cost. With disciplined formation, Loria's heavy infantry prepared for deployment, shields and spears raised in synchronized precision. Massive forces assembled outside the fortress. Japanese tanks remained still, observing enemy movement across open ground. A family heirloom shield is entrusted to a knight believed unbreakable and blessed by history. He joins the marching soldiers, promising his loved one's safety, carrying the shield into battle proudly. Armored troops advance against Japan's tanks, yet modern weapons fire mercilessly, unleashing devastation on approaching forces. Enemy knights raise shields and form tight defensive lines, determined to withstand bullets raining down fiercely. Shields shatter under relentless gunfire. Commanders gasp in disbelief, questioning how one knight resists destruction alone. Bullets rain furiously, yet the knight's shield absorbed every impact, holding firmly without yielding. Remembering his wife's words, he stood resolute, thanking her for entrusting him with protection. His defiance inspired comrades, who proclaimed him a hero, marveling at his shield's impenetrable defense. Knights rallied with renewed courage, charging forward under his lead, their spirits reignited by determination. Japanese soldiers observed cautiously, astonished that a single shield resisted gunfire, considering it a dangerous anomaly. Cavalry advanced across the plains, their morale strengthened by the knights' defiance against overwhelming firepower. Japan's fleet received the call. Helicopters launched from the carrier to provide reinforcements for ground operations. Watchtowers spotted flying machines above the northern port, quickly identifying them as Japanese weapons. Approaching fast, panic spread among Wyvern forces. Many fled positions, fearing the Iron Dragons dominating the skies. A determined knight named Thanakane volunteered, stepping forward to confront Japan's aerial might without hesitation. Thanakane insisted on fighting, believing only a Wyvern rider could oppose Japan's formidable flying machines. He soared skyward on his Wyvern, refusing retreat, determined to face overwhelming enemies with courage. Spotting helicopters ahead, he urged his partner forward, believing their slower movements gave him advantage. Targeting an isolated aircraft, he prepared for attack, declaring his resolve to bring it down. Missiles blazed toward him, yet his Wyvern dodged skillfully, shocking pilots who expected an easy kill. The Wyvern stabilized midair, adjusting swiftly as the helicopter circled, preparing to fire once again. Lightning, like energy, gathered inside the beast's jaws, signaling Thanakane's desperate attempt to counterattack effectively. Helicopters launched a second volley, but Thanakane urged his partner forward, releasing the fireball fearlessly. Both attacks collided, striking each other, leaving Wyvern and helicopter damaged, yet Thanakane believed they succeeded. Smoke filled the air as Japanese pilots confirmed impact, deciding to withdraw cautiously for reassessment. Shock filled Thanakane's eyes as his fireball failed, the helicopter enduring despite a direct hit. Helicopter formations advanced while cavalry prepared their charge, unaware of the overwhelming firepower soon unleashed. Explosions ripped across the battlefield, horses and knights thrown violently as helicopters strafed from above. A once praised hero fell instantly, struck down in disbelief, leaving comrades questioning Japan's terrifying might. One knight trembled, realizing enemy weapons targeted him next, their barrels glowing with impending destruction. Explosions tore the battlefield apart, cavalry units faltered under relentless helicopter fire raining from above. Machine guns shredded fleeing knights, leaving shattered lines while advancing Japanese forces pressed their overwhelming advantage forward. Survivors regrouped within fortress walls, realizing aerial machines lacked movement during night, offering a chance. Kamen shifted to Calcio of the Night, a commander confident darkness would favor them. Under looming shadows, Calcio vowed retaliation, declaring Japan would tremble once battle shifted into darkness. He demanded to lead, but General Patagin reminded him Japan's strength shattered earlier strategies. Despite their overwhelming firepower, Japanese soldiers still required rest, making their encampment vulnerable to sudden assault. Calcio prepared his chosen warriors, convinced nighttime silence concealed the perfect opportunity for decisive infiltration. Approaching the quiet encampment, Calcio warned his men to stay cautious of Japan's unusual discipline. Japanese soldiers anticipated the night raid, launching flares to expose enemy forces advancing under darkness. Flares illuminated the night sky, revealing the battlefield and destroying any advantage of surprise attack. Calcio's men realized their movements were exposed under the bright light, panic spreading quickly among them. Blinding radiance made it impossible to see, forcing soldiers to falter as bullets rained down. From the fortress, commanders screamed for Calcio's retreat, fearing annihilation if he remained on the field. Leaders debated the unnatural phenomenon, believing only an ancient sorceress empire could wield such overwhelming power. Orders were issued firmly, signaling Japan's army to begin the final stage of diversion. Engines roared as armored vehicles advanced, their main objective focused on breaching the fortress gate. Shells fired directly against heavy doors, stone walls shaking as wooden barriers splintered under impact. With the gate destroyed, Japan's 7th Division pressed forward, entering enemy territory with unstoppable momentum. Tanks received the order to target Jin Hark's palace gate and advance without hesitation. With synchronized precision, the main cannon unleashed a shell, aiming directly for the palace's defenses. The powerful impact obliterated the gate, creating a path for the armored column to surge forward. Inside the palace, stunned nobles and commanders stared in disbelief, overwhelmed by the display of destruction. As smoke rose, Japan's intent was clear: this war would end decisively before nightfall arrived. Soldiers rushed to reinforce the gate as commanders realized enemy siege weapons were moving into position. A desperate transmission confirmed the worst: their once mighty front gate had been completely torn apart. One knight volunteered to confront the Japanese alone, while entrusting the king's protection to his comrade. After receiving the order, the second knight silently prepared for what all means might require. Without hesitation, he commanded the others to hold the line and delay Japan's advance at all costs. He spotted the maids down the corridor and immediately ordered them to follow without hesitation. While gathering forces, Mouse confirmed that even civilians capable of fighting had been armed for defense. Yemire, the court sorcerer, appeared and pledged support to the general's final stand without fear. Encouraged by their resolve, warriors swore to carry fallen comrades well into the coming battle. Side by side, general and mage took position before the breach, ready to halt Japan's advance. Tanks advanced under night flares, their steady approach shaking the battlefield and alarming the defenders watching closely. Tension built rapidly. Yamare and the armored knight realized the enemy's numbers were far greater. Among the Japanese ranks, concern rose. Delay risked turning the mission into full-scale frontline combat. Despite doubts, frontline armor pressed forward to hold enemy focus and prevent collapse of diversion strategy. Meanwhile, helicopters closed in above, carrying Uchida's unit toward the palace for their infiltration operation. Uchida briefed his squad to avoid harming civilians while targeting guards positioned inside the castle. Helicopters flew overhead as castle guards noticed light beaming from above and raised weapons in confusion. Landing troops were mistaken for monsters, triggering chaos and fear among the disoriented castle defenders. Suppressive fire erupted from above, eliminating threats and securing a safe landing zone near the walls. With resistance pushed back, soldiers rappelled down ropes and launched the operation to capture Luri Fei's king. Helicopters circled above while Japanese soldiers advanced cautiously, breaching the fortified palace under heavy smoke. Inside the courtyard, units secured positions, reporting clear grounds, preparing squads for breaching deeper into palace. The door burst open, soldiers stormed forward, clashing violently with armored knights guarding the chamber. Each room was cleared methodically, fallen enemies marked progress, while teams secured escape routes upstairs. Palace guards struggled with magic resistance, fearing assassination attempts, while commanders debated enemies' unpredictable tactics. Communication attempts failed, leaving the commander frustrated as distant reinforcements remained beyond effective reach. He ordered a messenger dispatched, demanding General Pachinain and magicians return swiftly to defend. Japanese soldiers advanced upstairs cautiously, securing floors methodically, preparing for confrontation in the grand chamber. Sudden energy surged, startling the squad, lightning crackling as unseen forces signaled impending confrontation. Within the audience hall, frightened maids appeared, halting the soldiers' aim as tension thickened. Soldiers aimed cautiously as footsteps echoed. Two maids trembled, while a commanding knight appeared. He criticized their methods, recalling how Japan targeted military assets while sparing conscripts and civilians. Terrified maids pleaded for mercy, crying desperately, while soldiers remained silent under strict rules of engagement. Using their fear, the knight declared proof of Japan's restraint, twisting it into political leverage. He offered them surrender, demanding weapons dropped, leaving soldiers momentarily conflicted under his calculated pressure. Cornered by superior firepower, the knight obeyed, lying down as commands were barked without mercy. Hidden guards slowly emerged from behind columns, obediently casting down weapons as ordered without resistance. While lying defenseless, he questioned Japan's allegiance, but soldiers demanded answers about the king's location. Smirking defiantly, he deflected every threat, challenging their intent without offering any useful information. With deception exposed, Japanese forces prepared to breach, while he muttered defeat and named Zeroth Corps. Smoke poured from hidden doors as armored reinforcements surged forward, catching Japanese soldiers off guard. Combat erupted instantly, columns became cover, bullets flew, and soldiers countered amidst a chaotic ambush. Heavy footsteps echoed down the hall, causing tension to rise behind the sealed throne room. King Harkloria IV stood tall, proclaiming dominance and past conquests with unwavering arrogance. Without hesitation, Japanese troops advanced through smoke, closing in on the face with assault rifles. The king began explaining events as they unfolded under pressure. He confessed everything, raising funds, assembling forces, and enforcing brutal policies to unify his kingdom. Victory once seemed certain, but everything unraveled when Japan's unexpected intervention changed the course. Marching forward, Japanese soldiers became the symbol of disruption to his grand vision. Brought to his knees, the king questioned his actions, realizing too late the irreversible consequences. Accusations were declared, naming him the architect of Gim's massacre and demanding immediate surrender. Without resistance, cuffs clicked into place as soldiers confirmed successful capture of the infamous king. Helicopters soared over unfamiliar terrain as the Japanese forces approached a mysterious fortified city from above. Troops observed distant movement while scanning the valley, unaware of the kingdom's rapidly shifting geopolitical balance. Inside the cabin, officers prepared for diplomatic contact, carrying reports of overwhelming technological superiority. As Japan's dominance spread, the neighboring nations began trembling at the Loria kingdom's shocking defeat. News reached the Parpoldia Empire, where disbelief turned to worry over shifting power across Rhodanias. The king, still in disbelief, declared it impossible for Loria to fall in open war. His minister explained Japan's intervention crushed Loria's forces, shifting the continent's balance with rapid technological dominance. Diplomatic ties with Japan became vital, but provoking Parpoldia without a plan would be disastrous. After brief thought, the king approved secret negotiations with Japan through Quota Toin's cooperation. In Parpoldia, strategists realized aiding Loria had exceeded authority, risking chaos across the Rhodanias continent. Apologies were offered, but fear lingered. Exposure to the emperor could bring political ruin, communication loss with field agents, delayed intel. Scattered rumors hinted Japan's army held terrifying capabilities. Merchant reports revealed iron dragons and armored beasts could shatter wyverns, cavalry, and stone fortresses easily. Suspicions arose about exaggerated claims, but disinformation proved useful to cover intelligence failures. Orders followed swiftly burn all evidence linking them to Loria and Japan, erasing responsibility for survival. In Quora Toin's Lotus Garden, leaders assembled quietly to reassess balance after Loria's sudden collapse. With Hark Loria arrested, influence over vassals fractured, leaving their 400,000 troops directionless and unstable. Whispers of Japan's unmatched power spread. Its forces remained untouched while overwhelming Loria in every front. Direct confrontation left Loria with only 90,000 soldiers, mostly stranded naval forces awaiting uncertain futures. Internal power shifts began forming, messages seeking diplomacy with Qua Toin arrived from surviving regional lords. Debate intensified as Qua Toin's leaders weighed diplomacy against betrayal by former Lorian. Aligned vassals, optimism remained strong. The prince declared intent to strengthen ties and secure lasting peace with Japan. Amidst the wreckage, a lone knight awoke, dazed by battle's aftermath and the silence around. Realizing survival came from his shield, he reflected on what still needed protection beyond his life. Eyes fixed on the distant fortress, he resumed marching for country, for duty, and for family. Worn from battle and exhaustion, he staggered through ruined streets and past silent fortress walls. A woman quietly hung laundry, her heart uneasy, sensing something familiar stirring within the breeze. When she turned, her eyes met the man once thought lost, armor torn, body trembling. Tears fell as she ran to him, embraced tightly in quiet rain, finally home again. Ancient legends told of 4 heroes who sealed the demon lord beside the Sunday god's emissaries. Their statues stood proudly in Topa, near the isthmus that joined 2 vast continents together. Fortresses rose where humanity last stood united, guarding the Phyllids continent from demonic forces lurking beyond Gramius. From the gate's tower, young watchers noticed unusual black specks spreading quickly across the frozen plains. To their horror, an unnatural horde of goblins swarmed, a force far exceeding historical records or logic. Orcs emerged among goblins, proving this wasn't random. Someone was commanding the demonic horde's formation. Red and blue ogres appeared, legendary beasts once thought extinct, rallying the monsters into terrifying order. Far behind them all, Demon Lord Nosarath sat enthroned, overseeing the march with unwavering, ominous stillness. Snow fell silently as the unified army advanced south, echoing the calamity once buried in legend. While distant empires observed in silence, Japan stood quietly unaware of the returning darkness encroaching nearby lands. Fen's leaders questioned Parpaldia's intent, doubting offers of protection that masked territorial ambitions underneath. Rather than submit, the Sword King rejected their offer outright, exposing their demand to lease land unfairly. Driven by pride and resolve, Fen prepared for war, rallying allies to stand against looming threats. Interest shifted toward Japan, a rising force known for defeating Loria and earning diplomatic recognition abroad. Envoys waited in silence, observing warrior discipline as they prepared to speak with Fen's traditional leadership. A court attendant finally announced the audience, allowing Japan's envoys to meet the Sword King. Seated with authority, Shihan welcomed them formally, recognizing Japan's presence as more than a distant curiosity. One envoy presented gifts with practiced humility, signaling peaceful intent and opening diplomatic paths through cultural exchange. Items from Japan stunned the court: weapons, pearls, and garments unfamiliar yet radiating craftsmanship and value. Curious nobles reacted with awe, permitting further access to observe and understand Japan's mysterious technological sophistication. Admiration for Japan's craftsmanship grew as Shihan acknowledged its weapons and sought deeper cooperation immediately. Curiosity intensified when he halted talks, requesting first-hand proof of Japan's legendary iron ship technologies to demonstrate JMSDF strength. Japan proposed using retired warships as live targets for a mock exercise. Shihan insisted military power revealed national identity best, seeking understanding through displays of strength rather than words. Elsewhere, Parpaldia's court discussed failures abroad, plotting diplomatic pressure and war to reassert their fading dominance. Parpaldia's foreign affairs officer vowed military retaliation, demanding subservience from so-called barbarian nations without compromise. Orders were issued immediately, commanding lower officers to relay threats and mobilize punitive forces without delay. At the reception bureau, Japan's envoys struggled to escalate talks, stalled by bureaucratic layers and indifference. Despite attempts to reason, the clerk dismissed the envoy's case based on protocol and perception. Surprised by Japan's rejection of extraterritoriality, she viewed equal negotiations as audacious and deeply discourteous behavior. Dismissed as uncivilized outsiders, Japan's envoy faced prejudice, rooted in archaic worldviews and power hierarchies. Meanwhile, at the front line, defenders launched arrows as demonic forces advanced, hurling boulders toward the walls. Magic became the last resort when physical attacks proved ineffective against overwhelming brute strength and siege. Spotting familiar forms among enemies, soldiers realized legendary ogres had returned, reviving ancient horrors from forgotten history. Seated atop a massive scarlet dragon, Nosgarath appeared, confirming the Demon Lord's terrifying strategic presence. A strategic withdrawal was ordered to preserve Moa's expertise, vital for understanding demonic forces ahead. Despite her resistance, Guy forcefully pulled Moa away, prioritizing survival over pride or battlefield honor. Their captain rallied the remaining soldiers, vowing to hold the line while others escaped to safety. Troops braced for combat as the Red Ogre charged, shattering defenses with overwhelming brute power. Flanked by legendary ogres, Nosgarath entered through broken gates, his presence paralyzing soldiers with mounting fear. Enemy forces surged through the gates, overwhelming defenders while their captain collapsed, urging them to flee. On horseback, Moa screamed her captain's name, powerless to stop the fortress from exploding behind. Tears streamed down as soldiers died protecting them, snow-covered woods marking their only path forward. Tokyo adjusted quickly to its new reality, turning abandoned foreign embassies into diplomatic centers. Inside a confectionery near the embassy, ambassadors discussed Japan's alliances, weighing risks of protection and diplomacy. Conversations shifted to regional stability, trade, and Japan's assertive moves toward forming relationships with multiple nations. Far away, the fortress city of Tormes in Topa Kingdom braced itself for turmoil. Urgent reports arrived: demonic armies marched under Nosgarath, joined by legendary ogres, threatening overwhelming destruction. The council recognized the stone slab's prophecy, confirming the demon lord's terrifying revival. Guy attempted humor, but his companions reminded him of the dire revelations recorded in ancient manuscripts. Urgent news struck: the gate of the world collapsed, unleashing rampaging demonic beasts upon helpless garrisons. Commanders resolved to defend Tormes, mobilizing northern soldiers while offering apologies for doubting earlier dire warnings. Messengers dispatched alerts to Berngen, as chronicles confirmed their timeline matched the demon lord's prophecy. Ancient chronicles described united races building a mighty citadel to repel the demon lord's army after victory. Chosen heroes struck into Gramius, sealing the demon lord through sacrifice and eternal vigilance. Centuries later, countless demonic creatures gathered beneath fortress walls, preparing to overwhelm defenders with sheer numbers. A towering servant carried food, calling loyally to his master, who awaited restoration of strength. Seated in ruins, the revived demon lord consumed mana stew, regaining power from twisted offerings. Demon generals praised the ancient sorceress empire, declaring their campaign would restore the mage emperor's dominion. Memories of divine emissaries haunted survivors, recalling devastating iron dragons and magic ships annihilating entire armies. Despite such fears, loyal followers laughed, confident their emperor's revival would eclipse gods and past enemies. The demon lord vowed vengeance, planning destruction of Topa before uniting under the returning mage emperor. Meanwhile, Topa's ambassador met Parpoldia's officials, concealing urgency beneath politeness while arranging delicate diplomatic negotiations. Ambassador of Topa warned Parpoldia officials that the demon lord's revival endangered every nation. He requested allied forces, emphasizing Parpoldia's powerful magic artillery as essential against resurgent demonic armies. Chios dismissed the plea, declaring immediate assistance impossible, leaving Topa's envoy increasingly desperate and worried. While enjoying his meal, Chios assured eventual action, yet shifted focus toward punishing rival nations. Finally, Chios reminded Topa's envoy of their refusal to deliver slaves, deepening political tension. Chios ended the meeting with caution, warning Topa's envoy about Parpoldia's unpredictable hardliners. Meanwhile, fen skies filled with wind dragon squadrons patrolling coastal borders to secure looming threats. Riders spotted distant Japanese ships, surprised by advanced observation methods unseen by human eyes. Dragons compared their vision with the strange lights, realizing Japan's technology surpassed their natural abilities. At Amanoki's pavilion, fen leaders watched Japanese Navy demonstration, astonished by fortress. Like vessels' immense firepower, cannons roared across the sea, unleashing destruction that left enemy vessels shattered and burning fiercely. Explosions consumed wooden ships instantly, fire spreading fast as surviving crews screamed desperately amidst collapsing decks. Watching the devastation, commanders were struck speechless, realizing Japan's unmatched power extended far beyond ordinary imagination. Sailors aboard calmly discussed restraint, limiting their demonstration's might for political balance, despite overwhelming superiority. Detection systems then reported incoming wyverns, 20 strong, forcing immediate preparations to confirm intentions with allies. He marveled at Japan's overwhelming naval might, struggling to explain such destructive power to Garaha. Wyverns approached swiftly, but Susanoo dismissed them as insignificant compared to his strength and divine heritage. The Wind Dragon squadron soared above Amanoki, maintaining vigilance while observing Japan's silent yet formidable warship. Japanese crew confirmed unidentified flying objects. Their captain demanded caution, unwilling to engage without Fen Kingdom's response. Orders were given for evasive maneuvers, ensuring Japan's navy would not fire first in confrontation. Wyverns sensed overwhelming presence above Amanoki, trembling with fear as Garaha's wind dragons approached swiftly. Enemy riders initiated Plan B, ordering squads to burn coastal cities while confronting Japan's patrol ship. Descending rapidly, hostile wyverns unleashed fiery assaults toward the vessel, marking the battle's sudden beginning. The patrol vessel Inasa crossed unfamiliar waters, dispatched to negotiate with neighboring kingdoms in this world. Without warning, wyverns emerged from the sky, prompting immediate evasive orders from the crew's captain. Despite sharp turns, fireballs struck the ship's rear. Enemy reinforcements descended, tightening their aerial formation. Enemy commander observed the ship's agility, then signaled another coordinated strike as the wyverns circled back. Recognizing the imminent threat, the captain clenched his jaw and ordered a precise counterattack to commence. Machine guns roared from the patrol vessel, shredding a wyvern mid-flight before it reached them. Shrapnel burst in the sky as stunned enemy riders spiraled downward, unable to comprehend the destruction. Farther inland, wyverns targeted the town below, raining fire across rooftops and civilian structures without mercy. Plunging toward the coastline, dying beasts crashed into water and cliffs, confirming their attack had been repelled. Onboard officers confirmed aerial threats were eliminated, though the burning port town bore the battle's cost. Damage control crews reported no casualties, but command suspected the enemy might strike again soon. Hidden near the rocks, neutral wyverns decided to remain uninvolved, choosing not to intervene directly. A sage-like figure observed in silence, realizing Japan willingly assumed responsibility for this escalating conflict. Civilians gathered by the shore, marveling at Japan's swift retaliation against the attacking Perpoldian force. One diplomat stood speechless, overwhelmed by the outcome. Realizing Japan had just altered history through action, concerned about future consequences, diplomats acknowledged Japan was already entangled in foreign political tensions. While boarding the vessel, one of them suggested addressing the issue with the Fen Kingdom. Inside the formal tea room, envoys from both nations sat down to discuss the aerial conflict. Japanese side defended their actions as necessary self-defense, while Fen representatives offered words of gratitude first. Eventually, Fen confirmed the wyverns belonged to Perpoldia's foreign affairs military, escalating matters into geopolitical confrontation. Tension rose as Japan questioned the southwestern fleet's origins, prompting suspicion toward Perpoldia's intentions. Lone Noble apologized for overstepping authority, choosing to retreat from discussions due to political constraints. A senior official reflected solemnly, predicting future confrontations between Japan and powerful nations across the continent. Local citizens cheered the departing patrol ship, expressing heartfelt gratitude for the protection they had received. With everyone aboard, the diplomatic team prepared to leave, signaling readiness to return home for debriefing. Attempts to start the engines failed, sparking concern as mechanical issues. Delayed departure from hostile territory. Engineers reported critical damage from earlier impact, forcing immediate diagnostics while the crew anxiously awaited orders. Debate arose over abandoning the vessel, but leaving advanced technology behind posed enormous strategic risk. Fearing escalation, the diplomat decided to alert Tokyo directly using emergency shortwave communication equipment. Meanwhile, Perpoldia's fleet approached steadily from the southwest, its sails signaling a new confrontation ahead. Reports of silence from the Wyvern Knights sparked confusion, but commanders refused to believe their loss. Admiral Polk Tuar appeared unexpectedly, urging caution and assigning full responsibility for operations to his subordinate. Enemy ships detected from the east triggered immediate orders to prepare and load all 40 cannons. Finese vessels rushed to battle formation, fully aware Perpoldia's navy had entered their territorial waters. Leaders emphasized resolve and sacrifice, knowing their underestimation by the Empire might offer one slim advantage. Fen's flagship Sword God advanced confidently, hiding its most dangerous asset within the forward compartment. Inside that hidden section, a massive black market magic cannon waited, ready for an unexpected counterattack. Perpoldia activated a rare wind-enhancing device, redirecting course and increasing speed with magical propulsion to engage. Spotting the sudden maneuver, Fen's scouts reported enemy acceleration and aggressive trajectory, sparking immediate alarm on board. Fen's commander hesitated, knowing a mistimed formation would make his fleet vulnerable before they could respond. Despite the limited angle, he gave the order to fire the secret magic cannon immediately. Energy surged through the weapons chamber as the hidden cannon launched its devastating payload toward enemy ships. Perpoldian officers noticed the sudden attack, scoffing at the attempt to trade shots with them. Their own artillery stood ready, every barrel loaded, crews awaiting the command to unleash destruction. With synchronized force, Imperial cannons erupted, firing a massive volley aimed squarely at Fen's positions ahead. A fleet advanced across the sea, unaware that enemy artillery had already locked onto them. Explosions erupted around the lead ship, forcing the stunned commander to grasp the impossible technological gap. Panic set in as foreign projectiles lit the sky, confirming this assault came from another world. Despite witnessing overwhelming power, their officers arrogantly dismissed the threat as primitive and easily outclassed. Meanwhile, Japan's modern warship Izumo stood ready in Fen Sea, calmly observing the enemy's movements. Fen identified the oncoming fleet as Parpoldian. Japan's leadership ordered diplomatic personnel to remain aboard. With the situation unstable, JSDF pledged support to restore Inasa and monitor movements near Fen. Naval vessel Mayuku remained alert, its crew prepared quietly in case hostilities suddenly escalated again. Foreign Affairs requested minimal force. The captain hesitated, recognizing how difficult such restraint would be. Avoiding war became top priority. Negotiation needed space to succeed before weapons shaped the outcome. Duty came first. Despite risk, the self-defense force prepared to act without hesitation or fear. Confusion spread among Parpoldian sailors upon spotting a massive warship approaching from unfamiliar origins. Recognition sparked dread. Memories of fallen wyverns returned as they realized who faced them now. The Demon Lord's army advanced relentlessly, crushing Topa Kingdom's defenses and burning Tormus without mercy. They occupied the northern district of Maneza, fortifying their hold while spreading terror among its weakened inhabitants. Demonic beasts looted fallen knights' weapons, while terrified villagers were herded like cattle into the Great Hall. Unable to resist, Topa Kingdom suffered untold horrors, as Maneza became nothing more than a pantry. Far across the sea, Fen Kingdom's coast witnessed unfamiliar warships arriving, signaling unexpected intervention from another world. Fen Kingdom's admiral examined the unfamiliar vessel, astonished by its size and strange modern design. Suspicious officers ordered pursuit, believing the ship vulnerable without sails, urging immediate attack despite looming uncertainty. Cannons roared as the mysterious warship accelerated swiftly, surprising everyone with unnatural speed and advanced maneuvering. Every cannonball missed target, while the steel vessel maintained overwhelming control, escaping traditional naval combat effortlessly. Unease grew among commanders, realizing this encounter foreshadowed forces beyond their understanding, igniting dread within hearts. Orders were given cautiously, officers preparing to demonstrate naval power without unnecessary loss of life. Confidence filled the crew as targeting commands were issued. Powerful main batteries prepared for calculated strikes. Explosive shells shattered enemy masts instantly, rendering mighty wooden warships immobile and vulnerable upon the open sea. Panic erupted among commanders, disbelief spreading as distant fire-crippled vessels once thought unassailable in battle. Another ship collapsed under precise bombardment, enemy sailors horrified by impossible accuracy and overwhelming technological superiority. Enemy officers realized the attacks deliberately targeted masts, disabling mobility while avoiding direct crew casualties. Shock spread quickly as reports confirmed nearly half their fleet had already been immobilized without resistance. Staring across the calm sea, commanders doubted reality, questioning if overwhelming defeat was only a dream. History recorded this clash as Fen's open sea battle, leaving Parpoldia's fleet humiliated and powerless. Meanwhile, in Tokyo, Topa's ambassador received urgent correspondence, learning devastating news from his troubled homeland. News of the Demon Lord's revival shocked the ambassador, forcing him to urgently contact Japanese officials. Inside the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, he detailed the invasion, stressing Tormus's occupation and growing danger. He warned of demonic beasts devouring humans, insisting humanity risk becoming livestock under the Demon Lord. Officials acknowledged Japan's exposure, recalling past records of the Demon Lord's army crossing distant continents. Discussions ended cautiously, Japan requesting time before responding, while the ambassador pleaded desperately for swift assistance. Inside the Great Hall, elves huddled in fear, clinging to life with dwindling hope. Panic seized one prisoner as armed goblins arrived, dragging victims towards certain death without hesitation. Desperate prayers filled the air while captors argued over tender meat and sacrificial selections for orcs. Japan's Special Deployment Unit prepared, led by Taro Momoda, to assist Topa Kingdom against monsters. Soldiers were briefed on the mission, treating the Demon Lord's army as classified dangerous wildlife. Operation Momotaro began with tactical briefings detailing ogre intelligence, goblin numbers, and priority extermination targets. A curious soldier raised a question about their names, suspecting humorous intent behind the operation's structure. The squad laughed, realizing their names resembled folklore references, though leaders dismissed it as coincidence. 3 days later, the advanced platoon mobilized, equipped with tanks, armored vehicles, and high-speed support units. With objectives unclear, Japan's specialized force deployed into unknown territory. Prepared for any potential demonic resistance, troops boarded the tank landing ship Usumi, setting sail toward the war-torn lands of Topa. Fort Nibel stood firm within Bergen, the capital of Topa Kingdom, as leaders awaited news. King Rados was briefed. Japan's forces had departed, heading directly for the front lines. He recalled Japan's victories and hoped these warriors would strengthen his army against monstrous threats. Command was issued to knights welcomed Japan's arrival with formality and cooperation at the garrison. Troops marched through Tormus's south gate, greeted by stationed soldiers awaiting their expected reinforcement. Local elves discussed exaggerated tales of Japan's military strength, doubting rumors about their overwhelming power. Distant rumbling drew their attention skyward, signaling the arrival of Japan's reinforcement near the fortress. Unfamiliar sounds shook the ground beneath them, startling the guards as tension quickly filled the air. Japanese armored vehicles surged forward in formation, leaving defenders stunned by their mechanical force and discipline. Boots hit the snow as troops emerged. Observers questioned their appearance, mistaking them for commoners. Introductions followed swiftly. Knight Moa welcomed Japan's unit while mercenary Guy offered to assist. Crowds gathered along the streets. Amazed, rumors of Japan's machines spread rapidly across the capital. Troops admired the architecture, but reminders of the looming front line kept their minds alert. Knight Moa instructed the delegation to enter. Preparations for a strategic briefing were already underway. An elven knight rushed upstairs, urgently requesting JSDF assistance due to the worsening crisis outside. Inugami noticed distant screams. The elf confirmed goblins were abducting villagers despite constant night patrols. Elven forces formally introduced the JSDF platoon, bringing them into the hall for strategic coordination. Commander Aziz of Topa Kingdom welcomed Japan's troops, expressing gratitude for support against the Demon Lord. Captain Momoda introduced himself and fellow JSDF captains, affirming their alliance with the Topa Kingdom. Captives were trapped near the Great Hall, guarded by goblins and an enormous red ogre. Despite 600 hostages, few may remain. Ogres resist weapons, and the Demon Lord vanished. JSDF soldiers analyzed threats calmly. Their modern firepower might succeed where swords and spears failed. Offering to handle the ogres, the JSDF proposed a bold urban combat operation plan. Commander Aziz admired Japan's efficiency, yet doubted their weapons could match the ogres' overwhelming resilience. While seeking a map, an assistant opened a storage box that suddenly unleashed flying creatures. Swarming bats erupted violently from the chest, forming a dark figure above the council table. A cloaked demonic entity emerged, boasting of slain knights and demanding his forgotten name aloud. Weapons clicked into readiness as JSDF soldiers calmly aimed, prepared to face the unknown threat. Recognition struck the elven knight's face. The monstrous figure was identified as Demon Malastris. Grinning, Malastris pointed at the elf knight, sparing his life in recognition of perceptive intuition. Commander rushed recklessly forward. Malastris unleashed blazing magic, forcing others to pull him away immediately. A wave of hellfire struck. One knight disintegrated instantly, armor scattering across the stone floor. Elven leader watched cautiously while JSDF soldiers aimed their weapons, ready to retaliate without hesitation. Even after witnessing destruction, the elven knight stepped forward, challenging the demon without flinching. Moa was pulled aside just as JSDF shouted warnings and took immediate combat positions. Automatic gunfire erupted in unison. Bullets tore through Malastris, forcing the demon into retreat. Wounded and collapsing, Malastris fell against the wall. Blood seeped from his form without resistance. Shock turned to hope. Locals realized Japan's soldiers might actually overcome the ogre's terrifying power. Though summoned suddenly, JSDF proved formidable. Both sides began building trust through shared battlefield experience. Inside the captured district, a kind manager offered food and comfort to a frightened Ellie. Despite fear, he remained optimistic. Knights had fallen, but fleeing might still be possible. Goblins burst into the hall. Hostages froze. Ellie was quickly singled out and threatened. A brutal strike knocked the manager aside. Goblins rejected him, seeking elf women instead. Sniffing around, the goblins chose Ellie as prey, claiming she would be eaten alive. Ellie was dragged away by goblins, screaming. While her manager was struck down resisting, surrounded, and restrained, she cried out helplessly. Goblins mocked her as escape seemed impossible. Tears fell as Ellie clung to thoughts of Guy and Moa in despair. Elsewhere, Inugami's unit moved through the waterway, with Guy leading toward the enemy's location. Hope stirred again. Guy led JSDF forces forward, determined to reach Ellie in time. As they marched, Guy remembered Ellie information confirmed some civilians, including her, were captured. News struck hard. Guy requested time to search. Moa hesitated but listened without interrupting. They continued forward. Moa reminded Guy this was a joint operation requiring coordination with JSDF. Despite tension, cooperation prevailed. JSDF agreed to buy time, giving Guy a chance to act. Tanks deployed outside the walls, while Inugami's squad infiltrated through tunnels beneath the Maneza district. Momota issued new orders instructing Sarawatari's squad to lure the Red Ogre from position. Sarawatari's squad advanced through narrow alleys, approaching the plaza undetected to flank the Red Ogre. A glimpse of the Red Ogre confirmed its presence, prompting immediate action with grenades thrown. Explosions tore through enemy ranks, stunning the Red Ogre, which turned its gaze toward them. Realizing it was enraged, the squad retreated quickly as the Red Ogre began its rampage. Soldiers scrambled through narrow alleys, yelling taunts to lure the rampaging Red Ogre toward them. A tank unit and backup troops took positions, preparing an ambush to stop the charging threat. From above, the Ogre closed in fast. Unaware, 2 armored vehicles were blocking both escape routes. The unit regrouped swiftly, confirming readiness before delegating the counteroffensive role to the approaching Shiratori squad. Towering Beast spotted the tank waiting ahead, unaware it had walked straight into a trap. Shock flooded the Ogre's expression upon seeing the tank. Recognizing it as Iron Earth Dragon, panic overtook him as eyes locked onto Japan's crest symbol of the rising red sun. The Japanese unit prepared their armored vehicle, locking onto the towering Red Ogre threatening the city. Confidence surged as the autocannon's devastating shells shredded the monster's weapon, proving overwhelming firepower could dominate. The Ogre's body collapsed violently, its massive frame torn apart by relentless strikes from advanced weaponry. On the cobblestone streets, the Red Ogre's corpse lay sprawled, confirming the mission's brutal success. Troops reported extermination to command, noting absence of the Blue Ogre while carefully advancing towards safety. Soldiers advanced cautiously behind the hall, spotting goblins gathering nearby, confirming no sight of Blue Ogre. Gunfire erupted instantly, mowing down surprised goblins as the Japanese squad executed swift extermination with precision. Inside the Great Hall, knights and allies reassured survivors, declaring their arrival to protect everyone present. Among frightened captives, Ellie bravely resisted goblins' assault, though her strength faltered under overwhelming force. Her companion discovered her suffering, rage igniting within, as he charged desperately, determined to protect Ellie. Surrounded by goblins, Ellie struggled desperately while Guy's furious strikes cut through their advancing ranks. Enemies leapt with weapons raised, shouting threats, yet his blade met them with precise counterattacks. Realization struck that reinforcements were needed, but before despair took hold, an ally intervened decisively. Moa joined the fight, swiftly eliminating attackers, warning Guy not to grow careless in battle. Relief spread as survivors expressed gratitude, thanking Guy's timely arrival for saving them from certain death. Ellie received comfort from her allies, reassured by Guy's presence and Moa's protective support. Moa gently freed her from restraints, his calm actions contrasting Guy's worried yet silent watch. Relief filled her heart, admiration growing stronger as she regarded Moa's unwavering composure and kindness. Plans were discussed quickly, Moa searching for survivors while Guy promised to protect Ellie, supported by Guy. She walked forward, determination and gratitude shining despite exhaustion from recent suffering. Inugami's squad reported success. Survivors secured safely while relief spread among soldiers and their allies. Momota relayed orders, announcing cooperation with Topa Knights as extermination operations against hostile creatures would begin. Knights rallied with determination, preparing to reclaim the district of Maneza under their commander's leadership. Battle erupted fiercely. Armored soldiers clashed with goblins inside the fortress walls, steel piercing through resistance. Some enemies fled into nearby forests. Knights ordered pursuit, demanding complete extermination. Without allowing escape, marching soldiers chased fleeing enemies beyond the village as something massive approached with devastating force. A massive spiked weapon crashed through trees, revealing armored orcs advancing with brute strength and fury. Topa Knights shouted in panic as orcs emerged. Their commander urged calm and resistance through numbers. Among them appeared a dark, towering figure wielding a chained mace with ominous precision. Recognition struck hard. Blue Ogre had arrived, flanked by savage beasts, escalating the battlefield into chaos. Confusion spread among the knights as the Blue Ogre's arrival shattered coordination across advancing lines. Japanese troops hesitated, realizing their IFE support was missing while facing an overwhelming enemy force. A massive cave fortress bustled with demon activity as a bat scout returned with troubling news within the throne chamber. The demon lord learned of the Red Ogre's defeat by human forces. Japanese soldiers deployed in Tormus, coordinating teams to contain the threat and secure the fortified city perimeter. Gunfire erupted as orcs pursued local knights. Troops moved swiftly to provide cover and eliminate attackers. After neutralizing the threat, soldiers approached survivors, ensuring safety while leaving the orc bodies scattered and ruined. A wounded knight pointed weakly, confirming the blue ogre's presence deep within the nearby forest. From a distance, the blue ogre stood surrounded by heavily armed orcs readying chains for battle. One knight froze, gripped by terror, struggling to command his body while fear overwhelmed his mind. Gunfire erupted again. Orc soldiers collapsed instantly. The ogre flinched, stunned by the sudden precision attack. Blood trickling, he clutched the wound, pain unlocking a forgotten memory buried deep in rage. Standard rifles failed completely, forcing the unit to prepare a more powerful 84mm anti-tank grenade launcher. While gripping the strange bullet, the ogre realized its magic resembled that of divine emissaries. His eyes darted toward rooftops, sensing hostile intent from a distant direction behind the clustered houses. Soldiers positioned carefully atop rooftops aligned sights, confirmed target, then ordered the launch of a direct strike. As the rocket approached, shock filled his face, and instincts screamed to react before impact struck. Smoke engulfed the impact site as the explosion ripped through, leaving stunned knights shielding from debris. A massive crater remained where the ogre once stood, convincing onlookers of JSDF's overwhelming destructive capability. Two soldiers observed calmly from the rooftop, reflecting on their excessive yet necessary response in this world. Silence settled as everyone awaited the one question that lingered: what action would the Demon Lord take? From atop a cliff, the Demon Lord watched grimly, acknowledging Japan's growing threat could not be ignored again. Orders for retaliation echoed across the ranks as orcs roared. Rallying under the Demon Lord's command, ancient words of power flowed through his chant, shaking the ground and summoning chaotic destruction. Mountains crumbled as stone giants emerged from the earth, obeying a master's will without hesitation. Eerily morning silence in Fort Tormus broke suddenly as deep tremors rattled windows and rooftops alike. Residents stirred in confusion, startled by unfamiliar sounds, unaware of the colossal threat approaching their city. Giant footsteps echoed through the forest as the stone golem approached, leaving defenders frozen in awe. Urgent reports spread through the outpost, prompting officers to rush outside and verify the looming threat. Soldiers climbed the ramparts while catapults launched heavy payloads, striking the target with thunderous force. Despite direct hits, the monster advanced unscathed, ignoring damage as if its body were impervious to harm far behind enemy lines. A masked figure observed quietly, signaling their forces to prepare for battle. Crowds looked up in awe as masked sorcerers gathered, radiating power once thought legendary. Chants echoed across the battlements as the Royal Combat Mage Force initiated their high-level incantation. A massive storm of lightning spiraled downward, forming a concentrated tempest aimed at annihilating the golem. Soldiers and elves stared wide-eyed, stunned by the overwhelming magical energy surging through the battlefield skies. But from within the storm, the enemy kept advancing untouched, undeterred, an unstoppable weapon still marching forward. The Demon Lord emerged, his power overwhelming, causing the mage's staff to drop in disbelief. Dark flames surged from his fingers, forming a vortex aimed at the fortified kingdom's walls. One sorceress's eyes lit with resolve as she began chanting a powerful summoning incantation. From her spell rose a blazing, winged entity, Dark Phoenix, ready to turn the tide of war. A sorcerer summoned a monstrous phoenix, its flames consuming the battlefield as defenders struggled desperately. With the phoenix unleashed, a stone golem marched forward, while orcs and goblins rallied behind. Defenders gathered near shattered gates, terrified of the advancing golem, yet commanded to hold their ground. Allies from Japan promised to confront the towering threat, requesting knights delay the demon's relentless army. Tanks and vehicles roared from the fortress, Japan's forces charging to engage the unstoppable stone giant. Soldiers watched the towering golem advance, its size overwhelming, drawing comparisons to fictional anime giants. Inugami struggled to explain, admitting Japan had seen such creatures only in animated stories before. The JSDF tank squad mobilized, targeting the golem mid-march, launching a powerful shot toward its head. A direct impact struck the giant's face, shattering stone. Yet the enemy continued moving unfazed. Despite losing its head, the massive golem pressed on, unnerving the troops with its unstoppable advance. Hovering above the battlefield, the demon commander acknowledged the power humans should not be wielding. Tanks rushed in formation, prompting the demon to shout in recognition of their familiar mechanical presence. Old memories flooded back. Machines, soldiers, and destruction, the unmistakable emissaries of the Sunday god, returned. Realization struck hard. Even in this time, those same feared enemies had arrived once again. Rather than retreat, he ordered the golem to advance and destroy the incoming armored forces. Battle intensified at the city walls as knights fought fiercely to repel rampaging demonic beasts. Suddenly, the golem shifted direction, leaving soldiers stunned as panic spread across the defensive line. Ancient text revealed the golem's core, its single weakness buried within the chest. Common issued swiftly, halt all vehicles and prepare armor, piercing rounds targeting the torso's center. Shell fired directly into the core, unleashing an explosive impact that shook the battlefield. Shock spread across every face as the golem's body exploded, collapsing into scattered stone fragments. A voice cried out, pointing upward. Enemy leader floated high above, clearly visible in open sky. Missile launched without hesitation, spiraling toward target as the demon realized the threat too late. Blast struck midair, flinging the demon's body downward before crashing violently into the forest below. Rising from the crater, his rage surged uncontrollably, fury erupting louder than any words spoken. Magic burst from his hand as both sides launched full-scale attacks across the battlefield lines. Rounds pierced through his defense, forcing him to shield himself, cursing limitations of his magical abilities. Troops pushed forward with determination, vowing to strike him down regardless of the consequences ahead. Screaming in frustration, he shattered his restraint device, unleashing a surge of violent transformation energy. Everyone looked on in horror as he emerged reborn into a stronger primal demon form. Towering atop shattered stone, the transformed demon readied an attack while tanks prepared to retaliate. Cracks split across his energy shield as the overwhelming force of firepower broke through. Head detached mid-blast, landing near advancing tanks as stunned troops processed the swift, shocking result. A projection of his spirit mocked them, warning about the Sorceress Empire's inevitable return. Despite the threat, soldiers stood silent, watching his ashes fade while distant laughter echoed across snow. Relief set in as soldiers reflected, yet fears lingered over the Sorceress Empire's looming return. Victory felt hollow as formalities remained, while a soldier sighed at incoming paperwork duties ahead. With command broken, once hostile demonic beasts wandered freely, no longer bound by magical influence. Most withdrew peacefully, returning to distant lands across mountains, leaving the battlefield quiet and cold. As peace resumed, preparations began for departure, though daily life stubbornly returned with familiar routines. Despite promotions and titles, old habits persisted. He'd spent the night researching the Sun emissaries. Joking between friends resumed as they exchanged updates about work, duty, and adjusting to knighthood. Together, they arrived at a cozy inn where friends and comrades eagerly waited inside for them. A surprise celebration was prepared, honoring Guy's official knighthood with cheers, food, and heartfelt applause. Overwhelmed by their gratitude, Guy stood speechless as admiration and love filled the joyful gathering. While celebration continued, Moa quietly reflected on the tale's final words and lingering meanings. He linked Japan's flag to the Sunday god's crest, recording everything inside his final journal. Meanwhile, far at sea, warships advanced after Fen's decisive battle just before the demon's fall. In Propaldia, officials reeled as news confirmed the failure of Fen's Eastern Fleet subjugation. Shocked by the report, one officer demanded confirmation: 0 casualties, but entire fleet immobilized at sea. Furious at the manipulated report, he vowed to expose Admiral Poquetoire's minimized battle losses. Their strategy had failed disastrously, and now Altara's kingdom stood defiant amid scorched battlegrounds. Kaio suspects foreign interference behind their humiliating naval loss and demands a deeper political investigation immediately. Despite concerns, his subordinate insists their combined forces ensure success and defeat in Altaris is unthinkable. Far from their council, Princess Lumis races through the scorching desert, summoned toward a secret cave. Her breath grows heavy, thoughts consumed by worry and love for her distant, besieged father. In a past farewell, the king ordered Lumis to flee, entrusting Altara's future to her. Princess Lumis pleads to stay, but her father insists the royal bloodline must endure elsewhere. The emperor's ambition is exposed, diplomacy fades as the Parpaldia Empire embraces ruthless expansion without restraint. Hidden beneath old pirate reefs, loyalists prepare Lumis' escape towards safety, beyond the enemy's grasp. Escorted by Knight Lilside, Lumis tearfully bids farewell, entrusting her kingdom's hope to those remaining. As her ship sails off, the king accepts his fate, knowing Altara's legacy now survives. Citizens cheered their nation's power, blind to the leaders growing rich from endless bloodshed and conquest. Armies marched beneath a starless sky, disciplined and silent, yet their hunger for dominance never ceased. In Labale Plains, massive beasts armored in stone carried troops, bracing for battle's eruption. Imperial officers recognized the enemy's strength. Surprised, Altara rallied 20,000 troops despite overwhelming odds. Victory promised more than pride. A rare magic mine would secure power, wealth, and strategic control. Marching under rhythmic drums, Imperial soldiers advanced in formation, responding swiftly to their commander's loud orders. Altara's troops rallied with fierce resolve, determined to press forward despite facing overwhelming Imperial firepower. Cavalry units burst from the flanks, charging ahead with spears raised and hearts filled with defiance. Imperials deployed advanced weapons. Magic cannons launched deadly blasts, ripping through formations and shaking the battlefield violently. Explosions scattered the riders, revealing horrifying truth. Portable magic artillery now threatened even Earth dragons and cavalry. Archers released a storm of arrows, hoping sheer numbers could push back against advancing Imperial beasts. Despite the barrage, Earth dragons pressed on unharmed, their armored skins shrugging off wooden projectiles with ease. Lance cavalry surged forward, aiming to penetrate the slow beast ranks and shatter enemy formation lines. Suddenly, torrents of fire burst forth, engulfing horsemen as magical flames ravaged the battlefield mercilessly. Even surrounded by flames, Altaran riders pushed onward, determined to strike back with every ounce of pride. Cavalry raised spears and surged forward, determined to pierce through Imperial ranks with final desperate force. A sudden volley erupted. Imperial troops unleashed coordinated musket fire, cutting down riders before they could close. Outmatched by dragons and firearms, Altaran forces collapsed. Their capital fell, and resistance ended within days. While war raged behind them, Lumi sailed toward Rhodanias, reflecting on survival, leadership, and uncertain refuge. Their ship reached foreign waters, but Lilside warned Loria's unstable politics posed new risks ahead. Plans shifted toward Quada Toin, where they'd pose as a troop and request asylum in disguise. Hidden weapons were secured among props, ensuring the group could defend themselves in emergencies if necessary. A pirate ship appeared on the starboard side, quickly approaching with hostile intent across calm waters. Realizing their rushed departure invited danger, Lilside ordered Lumis below while mobilizing everyone to battle stations. Pirates grew suspicious of the unusual ship, sensing hidden value and fantasizing about women and loot. The ships closed in, ready to attack, their leader eager to raid the suspicious vessel. As arrows flew, Lilside's team retaliated swiftly, revealing their skill shocked the overconfident pirate crew. To escape danger, Lilside ordered full power to the wind engine despite dwindling magic reserves. Wind surged as the artifact activated, stunning everyone with its roar and sudden burst of energy. Overhead, a foreign aircraft approached, its thunderous arrival alarming Lumis, and forcing Lilside to react immediately. Flames burned aboard as crew scrambled to shield the princess, chaos unfolding across the open deck. Far offshore, a sleek Japan Coast Guard vessel appeared, cutting through waves with purpose and modern resolve. While the island remained hidden behind rocky cliffs, both ancient sails and steel hulls converged in tense silence. Inside the ship's cabin, armored troops readied weapons, unaware their reinforcements had already entered hostile waters. A commanding officer gave orders, signaling the mission start as soldiers disembarked, prepared for imminent contact ahead. Gasps spread among the pirates as they saw the massive white vessel cutting through waves. Japan Coast Guard gave a stern warning, their ship gleaming as it closed in unrelentingly. The pirate crew scrambled to flee, fearing certain death, while survivors on deck watched in stunned silence. Despite collapsing from exhaustion, Princess Lumis urged her crew to stop, trusting the just nation approaching. Japan Coast Guard boarded calmly, confirmed the pirate attack, and checked for casualties among the shaken passengers. Poison identified as Lorian scorpion venom, confirming fears of a lethal pirate attack on Lumis. Medics rush her onto a stretcher. Urgent orders send helicopter racing to Quo Toin Hospital. Desperation grips her companion, who pleads for permission to accompany the unconscious princess aboard. Helicopter slices through the sky, carrying hope and fear toward the distant Japanese coastline. Doctors transferred the mysterious girl from Quo Toin to Japan, ensuring safer treatment and observation protocols. Officials discussed her identity, hinting at royal blood, while her silent guardian refused to speak prematurely. Morning light revealed the girl awake. Across the room, her armored companion silently watched over her, stepping toward the window. She marveled at steel towers, overwhelmed by the unfamiliar modern world outside. Confusion gripped her as she examined strange machines. Her guardian gasped, relieved to see her conscious. Lilside quickly lifted the princess, scolding her gently for rising without medical attention or permission. Emotion overwhelmed her as she embraced Lumis, thankful she had awakened from her long unconsciousness. Though disoriented upon waking, the princess listened calmly as Lilside recounted their arrival and unexpected rescue in Japan. Ships had arrived together. While Lumis slept, Japan provided shelter and treatment without knowing their true identities. Moved by their kindness, Lumis agreed to speak. Officials were called, truth would finally be revealed. An official suggested rest and food. Lilside's stomach growled, betraying her hidden exhaustion and lingering hunger. While walking together, she warned against improper intentions. The official awkwardly denied any misunderstanding between them. Steam filled the shower room, unfamiliar sensations confused Lilside, who feared manipulation through foreign comforts and luxury after bathing. She devoured the Japanese meal with joy. Resistance faded beneath delicious flavors she'd never imagined. Completely overwhelmed, she collapsed dramatically, convinced psychological warfare had begun and begged not to be further broken. A few days passed. Both women were granted asylum and instructed to conceal their true identities. Lumi's enrolled as a university student while Lilside remained nearby, officially designated as her personal guardian. Identification papers were issued, grateful for Japan's support. The two formally expressed their deep, heartfelt appreciation. Lilside sought news of Altaris. Lumi's reminded her to focus first on building stability within Japan. A government escort prepared them for sightseeing, offering insight into daily Japanese life and peaceful modern society. Inside the car, Lumi's pondered her asylum status, now a student immigrant from another world. At a smoking area, officials debated whether Japan's decision could escalate or ease foreign tensions. While smoking, Yanagita explained that containing chaos closer might prevent wider conflict and make diplomacy manageable. Timing was key. When opportunity arrived, Japan would use political leverage gained from harboring Lumis. Night fell over Tokyo. Lumis quietly admired the glowing skyline, wondering if it resembled magic itself. Hope filled her heart. By studying advanced technologies in Japan, Lumis believed Altaris could survive. They moved into a modest apartment, despite unfamiliar surroundings. It marked the beginning of their new chapter. While adapting to city life, Lumis insisted on humility. Titles were left behind to embrace normalcy. Hearing this, Lilside grew emotional. Her vow to protect remained firm, regardless of changing roles or names. Trust deepened quickly, but Japan's technology still confused Lumis. Lilside rushed forward, realizing another shower mishap was imminent. At Quetta, Toin representatives arrived by train for a critical summit of Eastern Allied nations. Nations oppressed by the Parpaldia Empire convened, seeking unity through the annual Great Eastern Countries Conference. Delegates came from diverse kingdoms, elves, humans, and beastfolk, each prepared to speak against imperial domination and pressure. News of Altaris' fall spread. Reports confirmed mines seized and royal bloodlines eliminated by invading forces. As tensions rose, Topa's envoy shocked everyone, revealing the confirmed return of the ancient Demon Lord. News of the Demon Lord's demise shocks the conference, sparking disbelief among gathered leaders. Doubt fades as they hear Japan's self-defense forces defeated the Demon Lord through diplomatic support. Concern rises as some question Japan's growing power, wondering if it is a threat to peace. Others defend Japan, crediting cooperation for Toin's growth and urging unity over confrontation with allies. One leader confirms Japan's strength, praising their victories at sea and on land with admiration. Quilla's representative shared oil exports and speculated Japan rivaled ancient Mu in civilization level. Tensions grew sharply as leaders debated whether Japan had surpassed even the Parpaldia Empire's might. Meanwhile, Japan's Coast Guard moved into Mars seas, marking presence in the Second Civilization area. Arriving in Mu, Japanese envoys admired a civilization that thrived through science instead of magic. Myris hailed a cab in the bustling city, requesting transport toward Anank Air Force Base. Inside the vehicle, Myris calmly read the newspaper, gathering information before beginning another important day. The journey ended at Anank Air Force Base, where aircraft and personnel demonstrated ongoing operations. Stepping inside, Myris introduced himself confidently, greeted as the Army's finest technical officer despite his youth. Commanders explained his assignment, evaluate an emerging nation's technological progress, emphasizing diplomacy rather than direct military confrontation. Briefed on the emerging power, Myris asked if it concerned the notorious Gra Valka's empire. He recalled Japan's defeat of Luria's ambitions but lacked deeper knowledge beyond the Rodanias conflict outcome. Officials showed a Japanese ship's photo, amazed by its metallic hull, lack of sails, and stealth despite confusion over its small armament. Myris deduced Japan used combustion, not magic, for propulsion. Shocking news followed. Japan's envoy would arrive by aircraft, escalating the urgency to assess their technology. Confusion spread as the ship lacked a flight deck, raising questions about Japan's aircraft capabilities. Officials planned a week-long visit, instructing Myris to assess Japan's technological level during their stay. Acceptance of the mission came quickly. Arrival was imminent, the Japanese aircraft approaching within minutes. Blades roared overhead as a helicopter descended, stunning Myris with its unexpected form and flight. Hovering motion defied their understanding, triggering panic as ancient concepts appeared proven by foreign engineering mastery. Engines cooled as the helicopter landed, releasing two well-dressed Japanese diplomats onto foreign soil. Wind whipped across the field while Myra steadied himself, welcoming the guests from a powerful nation. The visitors introduced themselves as Seiki and Masono, representatives from Japan's Foreign Ministry of Affairs. During a tour of Anank base, Myra proudly introduced the Marin, their nation's most advanced fighter. To their surprise, the guests admired the biplane as a historical artifact rather than modern marvel. Surprised by their comment, Myra grew suspicious and resolved to investigate Japan's technology much further. When asked about their engine, the Japanese revealed a turboshaft, a concept completely unfamiliar to Myra. As a gesture of goodwill, Masono offered Myra a souvenir book detailing Japan's technological history. Flipping through pages, he was shocked by jet aircraft designs flying without visible propellers or magic confusion. Deepened after learning jet knowledge was public, Japan treated such advanced systems as everyday information. Curiosity piqued as Myra questioned the jet's speed, wondering why such information wasn't tightly classified. Learning it flew at Mach 2.5 stunned him far beyond the Marin's modest 380 kilometers per h. He admitted their technology couldn't approach supersonic flight, marveling at Japan's overwhelming mastery of airspeed engineering. Soon after, the group departed to begin the official tour, riding silently in a waiting car. Despite earlier shocks, Myra noticed they showed no interest in the vehicle, possibly unimpressed or familiar. Excited by the surroundings, Saki took photos while Masono reminded him to document every technological detail. Hearing Mew described as retro, Myra puzzled over the term but welcomed their apparent enjoyment regardless. They arrived at Kudowaru Port where a large battleship gleamed, proudly representing Mew's naval power. Saki reacted enthusiastically to the warship, prompting Myra to feel satisfied with their long-awaited admiration. That excitement faded upon learning it resembled Japan's century-old Mikasa, now only preserved as a museum relic. Saiki called battleships obsolete, confusing Myra about whether the Japanese ship was truly their main vessel. Thoughts spiraled, could a small patrol boat truly surpass their warships? Japan's standards defied conventional comparison. While reflecting in silence, Myra contemplated personally visiting Japan to understand their advanced civilization firsthand. Next stop was Mu's History Museum, where guests were invited to follow the pre-recorded narrated route. Inside, they learned of Mu and Atlantis, ancient civilizations displaced by mysterious interdimensional transference millennia ago. A globe display revealed Mu's original world matched Earth's size, prompting puzzled curiosity from the group. Shock spread as they recognized Earth's continents, realizing Mu's origins might connect to their own planet. Questions arose about Antarctica's position. Continent placement seemed inconsistent with known geography from modern Earth maps. Myra pointed to Atlantis near the equator and Yamuto, Mu's ancient ally, now modern-day Japan's location. Overwhelmed by revelations, they stepped outside to rest, needing time to process the museum's historical implications. Warm drinks in hand, they reflected on an unexpected day of revelations, connection, and shared origins. Discussions confirmed Yamuto evolved into Japan. Both nations were transported, unknowingly tracing parallel historical paths. By evening, laughter echoed. Mu and Japan had formed diplomatic ties, rekindling an ancient alliance across worlds. Miss Elto received confidential documents handed over by a familiar officer seeking a position transfer. She reviewed the sealed report carefully, considering his proposal as political tensions quietly brewed beneath official surfaces. Shocking details inside described Japan's military actions, including victories and interference in Luri's secret strategies. Determined to act, she departed with urgency to inform His Majesty of Japan's growing threat. Elto instructed staff to gather all intelligence on Japan while others whispered and speculated behind her. The Imperial Conference convened within the Grand Palace, summoning top officials of the Parpoldia Empire. Elites gathered before the Emperor, each anticipating praise or punishment depending on their latest regional campaigns. Recognition was given to Kaios and Arde, who reported progress in military and diplomatic fronts. Plans to invade Fen were finalized, yet tension rose awaiting the delayed foreign affairs report. Kaios failed to explain Fen's defeat, angering the Emperor, who demanded answers, not excuses, from everyone involved. Uncertainty grew as Kaios admitted their lack of understanding about the mysterious enemy behind Fen's defeat. Elto confirmed that Japan's involvement had been identified as the primary cause of the military collapse. Furious, the Emperor demanded to know if anyone possessed prior knowledge about this powerful unknown nation. Silence broke when one officer hesitantly confessed familiarity with Japan, prompting uneasy reactions throughout the chamber. Enos was exposed for hiding information and aiding Lori, while Elto prepared to present crucial insight. Elto explained Enos's actions, emphasizing he paid damages personally and acted without selfish intent. Acknowledging her defense, the emperor asked how punishment should proceed. Elto proposed a fair but stern penalty. Capital punishment was dismissed, and Enos received a demotion with reduced salary under imperial leniency. Grateful tears followed as Enos vowed renewed loyalty and pledged to serve the empire wholeheartedly. Commander R delivered his report, warning Japan's strength and manipulation could threaten all three civilized regions. Joint analysis concluded Japan should be respected as a power, yet not feared without cause. Orders were given to crush Fen and discipline Japan if further interference occurred in operations. While Parpaldia planned retaliation, Japan expanded tourism, drawn to the wonders of the alternate world. Fen's Edo-era charm made it a favorite destination among curious Japanese travelers and adventurers. Guards noticed rising tourist presence, quietly questioning whether they understood the true risks of this land. Tension rose as local guards anticipated Parpaldia's retaliation, preparing defenses around coastal Nishinomiyako's vulnerable front. Rocky shores offered scenic beauty but posed serious risk as ideal landing points for incoming invasion forces. Amid the alert, citizens enjoyed peaceful moments, quietly hoping this fragile harmony would continue longer. At Parpaldia's guest house, diplomats gathered, including unexpected faces from the distant Third Foreign Affairs Division. Whispers spread about the guests' origin, suspecting Japan, and questioning their right to attend diplomatically. A formal announcement introduced the Japanese diplomats, causing tension to rise inside the meeting room. Parpaldian officials requested introductions as the visitors stood before an unfamiliar and clearly judgmental diplomatic panel. Asada and Shinohara identified themselves, sensing pressure as if placed under a political interview spotlight. Kaios claimed responsibility for discussions, taking charge of diplomacy between Japan and Parpaldia moving forward. Diplomatic talks began as Japan addressed recent incidents, aiming to restore damaged trust between both nations. Accusations flared as both sides defended actions, each blaming the other for igniting violent confrontation. Outbursts intensified when Japan's words insulted Parpaldia's vessels, prompting Kaios to refocus talks on military assessment. Documents were exchanged to explain Japan's structure, allowing Parpaldian officials a chance to study their counterpart. Differences emerged sharply. Parpaldia boasted dozens of colonies while Japan maintained none under its authority. Laughter broke among Parpaldian envoys, mocking Japan's lack of territorial dominance as weakness in global influence. A formal meeting begins tense. Foreign delegates remain cautious despite Japan's diplomatic tone and scheduled proposal. Criticism erupts after departure. Some officials question Japan's civility, labeling them barbarians unworthy of serious negotiation. Kaios, unconvinced by appearances, suspects Japan's hidden strength and seeks deeper ties before drawing conclusions or action. Meanwhile, a massive Parpaldia fleet, including Wyvern carriers, sets sail for Fen with overwhelming force. Japan's government, alarmed by the threat, scrambles to respond, prioritizing evacuation of citizens stranded in Fen. Japan's cabinet weighs the risks. Legislative action or rescue might overburden the JSDF's current limits. Tensions deepen as rumors spread. Fen could fall next under Parpaldia's relentless campaign for dominance. Amid rising concerns, the First Foreign Affairs Office becomes the focal point for diplomatic maneuvering. Kaios reflects bitterly on past ambitions, forced to return where past political failure still lingers heavily. Summoned unexpectedly, he faces Elto and a shadowed figure. Puzzled by the Imperial Edict's intent, confused by her confidence, Kaios cautiously inquires about her identity, unsure of her true rank. With dazzling arrogance, Ramil reveals her role as Foreign Affairs Auditor, instantly asserting dominance over the meeting. Lady Ramil extended her foot, commanding attention as Sir Kaios knelt, seeking forgiveness for disrespect. She accused him of weakness, furious over his careless diplomacy with Japan that endangered national security. Attempting to defend himself, Kaios was silenced by her reminder of the Emperor's direct, firm command. Ramil recalled the Emperor's vision. Certain Kaios failed to grasp the true meaning behind that meeting. On the balcony, she explained domination by fear must be tempered, guided by deeper imperial purpose. Kaios warned that being underestimated invites defeat, while Ramil awaited the Emperor's uncompromising declaration. He declared their empire would never bow like Mu or Militial, refusing submission to any nation. Intent on reshaping the world, he vowed to unite civilizations, destroy enemies, and eliminate future wars. Their glasses touched in solemn resolve as Ramil silently absorbed the weight of his ambitious vision. She praised his dream, believing his conquest served not only the empire but peace for all. Ramil believed only she could fulfill his majesty's dream. certain no one understood him better. She seized control of Japan negotiations, declaring full authority under the First Foreign Affairs Bureau immediately. Without hesitation, she dismissed Chios and declared her intent to handle diplomacy with unmatched precision. Storming out in fury, Chios cursed Ramil, his pride wounded by her sudden political maneuver. Another official acknowledged her power play, recognizing she only acted to demonstrate overwhelming bureaucratic dominance. Chios left in silence while another officer mocked him, offering a future under her command. Following Ramil's rise, negotiations with Japan shifted, drawing international attention from distant corners of the map. Tension stirred near the islets of Nishinomiyako, where an observation post monitored activity at sea guards spotted incoming vessels across the waves, their alarm rising as they confirmed the ship banners, a fleet of Parpaldia's Imperial Navy advance, signaling a direct threat to Japan's western border. A command was shouted to light the beacon, sending smoke high to signal incoming danger. Beacon smoke reached inland forces who recognized its meaning. War with Parpaldia had finally begun now. Soldiers quickly mobilized after spotting the signal, knowing their duty in the face of foreign invasion. Parpaldian forces launched aerial beasts from carriers, preparing a coordinated strike over Japan's coastline and cities. Enemy scouts reported weak beach defenses, believing Japanese troops had withdrawn deeper toward fortified central positions. Parpaldian commander ordered a fiery assault, dismissing Japanese defenses as weak and easily disposable obstacles. Dragons attacked the wooden city, but restraint was urged to preserve structures for future military use. While soldiers gathered onshore, disembarkation continued uninterrupted, and movement toward the inland city had not started. Marching without opposition, Parpaldian troops grew confident, believing Japanese forces had fully withdrawn from defensive positions. Troops observed distance between outer walls and forest, suspecting the enemy was hidden somewhere deeper inland. Parpaldian troops mocked Japanese defenses, doubting any real threat could emerge from such primitive warriors. While marching confidently across open sands, soldiers remained unaware of hidden eyes watching closely from beneath. Samurai warriors launched upward from camouflaged pits, springing the trap with precision and overwhelming force. Ambushers surged forward, blades raised, catching Parpaldian soldiers off guard before they could react or resist. Musket units scrambled under shouted orders as samurai closed in, beginning a brutal close-quarters engagement. Swords swung fiercely before muskets could fire, slicing down soldiers mid-movement in a precise assault. Warriors darted forward with piercing yells, cutting enemies with single strikes as formations fell apart. Commanders barked orders to regroup, urging troops to stand ground and counter with fixed bayonets. Despite mounting casualties, soldiers reloaded amid chaos, musket smoke erupting as discipline held under pressure. Several samurai fell from gunfire, momentum halted as lines tightened and firepower overwhelmed their charge. Gunfire erupted as the commander barked orders determined to crush the enemy's frontal charge instantly. A lone horseman rushed toward the mountain stronghold to deliver grim news of battlefield losses. Inside the war room, officers recoiled from a strange tremor that shook the wooden floorboards. Roaring dragons soared above, launching fiery blasts on the Imperial fleet, setting warships ablaze midair. Staring at the shattered walls, the officer trembled, overwhelmed by destruction reaching deep into command. Artillery bombardments shattered rooftops while civilians fled. Defenders realized siege defense had become completely futile. Orders from their homeland arrived, capture all Japanese citizens residing in Nishino, Miyako, without exception. Imperial troops disembarked swiftly, advancing with synchronized steps, ready to overtake and secure the burning city. Inside a ruined shelter, a girl was discovered. Soldiers confirmed her identity and seized her.